Fairfield County, Pennsylvania. It promises to be a brutal one with all the bullshit going on in the school boards, raising taxes, crushing everybody across the country. Well, my hometown school district's in the crosshairs, and that's going to be the event this weekend. I'm sure we're going to stumble into that subject because my two counterparts here, as you know very well, the Three Amigos Roundtable, our fan favorite. We've got a lot to talk about, catch up with Nino and Mike on exactly what's happening out there in the battlefield. It's emerging fast. A lot of stuff's going to be happening in the next 4 months. So, guys, we got Nino Rodriguez, former heavyweight boxer, Mike Jaco, 24-year Navy SEAL, 10-year CIA operator, new battlefield, different mission, going after the people that used to command him to do the things that he did, because we found out they're all criminals. Anyways, guys, good to have you here today. I'll hand it off to you guys. What's the big story? What's the big news of the day in this battle? And what do the next 4 months look like from what you guys are hearing?
You want to go for it, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things. President Trump's plane, had to switch planes, Air Force One. Uh, it looks like maybe the one he got from Qatar is compromised now. I don't think it was built in Qatar. I think it was built in the Boeing, aircraft manufacturing plant. There's been some suspect stuff that's been going on there. People talking about how people are coming in all drugged up, even though they go through, testing and they're qualified to be able to come in there. They're gonna have to tighten everything up because it sounds like this plane's been compromised somehow. And you would think they were going through that thing with a good like a good comb, and just like microscope the whole thing, and it's like and they probably did. But the building process, you're going to have to make sure going forward, especially something like this, that you're in control of the whole thing. I remember many years ago, many decades ago, in Moscow, when the Soviet Union, the communists, were running the show there. We built a new embassy, and dumbasses, allowed the local Russians to come in and build it. And of course, it was bugged like crazy. It had to like tear the whole thing down, bring in materials from the United States and builders from the United States to build one. But this is some of the things that we should know by now. All right, so this being compromised like this is highly suspect. I think it's after the fact, right? So we know that President Trump is he's targeted. The deep state is on the ropes. Now, a lot of people have said that the deep state it's a done deal. It's not a done deal, guys. They're going to keep playing this game until they're completely gone, and that's going to take a long time, right, to dig these guys out of the woodwork. So just like for example, President Trump's plane, maybe it was perfectly cleared and then it was bugged later on with something. We don't know exactly what happened, and they're probably not going to let us know because once you tell the enemy that you're onto them and how you discovered them, then they're going to figure out a way to like work around that and do something different. So that's why you're not going to hear stuff on this, guys. It's the way this works. Tyler Robinson, I mean, we could go off on a lot of different things. That guy is a patsy, if I've ever seen a patsy. And was Charlie Kirk shot? I still don't believe so. I know there's very skilled people. I know you just had John Carmine on. I was watching that show just before this. I totally respect him. If we were in a room together, we could probably come to some conclusions. This is the way, like we're doing this roundtable, we kick stuff around and we come up with some really good insight. So, we're having a lot of this stuff. If I was there, I would tell you how, if I was in charge of Charlie Kirk's detail, which it looks like there was a lot of guys like me in his detail, former military, probably very high up. They all moved with a purpose and they started tearing everything down. They moved him out. If I was there and he had really been shot, I would have saved his life because I know how to save lives, and I know those guys are skilled in that area. So if I knew that he was going to be shot, we're going to make a scene like he's been shot because we know somebody's going to shoot him. So I would have said, okay, guys, this is where we're going to work this. We're gonna make it look like this because I looked at this one woman at the fraud event. This woman came up to me and said, I totally agree with you. I was there. I was taking video. She showed me the video. She said his chest puffed up like it was like, and then boom, I think it was, staged. But if there was an exit wound, which I haven't seen, and I don't know. So I'm open-minded about it, but from my perspective, I'm looking at it and I'm saying this is a whole staged event. And it's probably because they knew he was going to be assassinated, so they staged it. Uh, that's my thoughts on that.
I'm
Well,
with you.
Ed, and I think that was a vicious killing, but that's just me. But I'm going to go into this first. Trump terminates all members of Election Assistance Commission ahead of midterm, so he's already making moves, guys.
Right.
Here it comes. President Donald Trump on Thursday night reportedly terminated the members of the Election Assistance Commission, which is an independent commission that assists election administration officials nationwide. All three of the remaining commissioners were removed in some way, according to Reuters, with two Democratic commissioners, Thomas Hicks and Benjamin Hovland, notified by email. The Republican commissioner, Christian McCormick, was allowed to resign. So he's already starting to make moves. I heard that Monday could be a big day. I don't know what's going to happen. Juan's chief of staff hit me up and told me that, Monday could be, he said, look out for Monday. And I haven't gotten back to him to find out what yet, but we'll see. But I think this is it, man. There's no other time like now with where we're at the next 5 months. I mean, and I know we say this every election, but this really is the hill to die on. There's nothing this is it. I mean, if the Democrats don't get what they want for midterms, which it looks like they're not, what's their next choice? It's chaos, man. It's some kind of red nuke button, man. They're going to have to hit the button because if Trump goes forward, the SAVE Act is not going to pass. I think we all know that. I think we all can agree on that. But Trump's going to make it look like, hey, I'm really pushing for this to pass. Even if it did pass, it'd be fought in courts and it wouldn't come in on time for the midterm. So what does that mean? It means Trump most likely is going to sign this national security or declare a national security emergency, which will then lead to executive orders, which will then send the Democrats off the rails. And what does that mean? Well, they're going to have to resort to another means of, or other methods of getting the job done. Now, what that means, or you all can use your imagination, I think it's going to be severe, man. I think it's going to be, I think there will be pockets of civil unrest. I don't think they won't achieve what they've always wanted, which is a civil war. But I think, when this starts to the trajectory starts to, Trump starts to set his sights on Obama more so than ever, and the arrests come, I think that's when this shit really kicks off, man. And I think midterms to me is it. It has to be it. I'm just speaking out. I'm thinking out loud. My audience knows it's logical. You all know this. It has to be the midterms. There's no friggin' way either side's going to give an inch. They're going to do whatever it takes to just not just win this, but it's probably going to be delayed, postponed, whatever, military. Who knows how this plays out? But I think the next 5 months, man, it's just going to keep getting ratcheted up, higher stakes, maybe more assassination attempts on Trump. You talked about his plane. Yeah. I mean, anything's a possibility. Dude, I would have food tasters. What about poisoning the water at Mar-a-Lago? I mean, these people, there's 10 ways to Sunday to get this guy. And who knows? I mean, he even said himself, I may go away for a while or I may be gone soon, hinting that he's very realistic with what could happen to him.
Sure.
So there I am with that. That's what I have to say right now.
It still doesn't escape me, and I don't have any hard evidence or proof, but it still doesn't escape me that it's still plausible. They're still controlling all this and playing it out. And I agree, there's always still moves the other side can make. It's like that. We talked about this before, the Queen's Gambit, that film that, when you lost on a chessboard, you drop your queen over and you tap out with respect because you can see there's no way no matter whatever move you make, you're going to lose. And it's disrespectful to keep on pushing if you're a real professional. For this battle, to me, it's kind of like that there's a Queen's Gambit that's obvious, but the other side is still going to fight to the death. My belief is this is, and I agree with you too. I think there's no way the election is going to happen, in my opinion. We have to get to close enough to where it becomes a bit of a fever pitch, because we still know we have elections that aren't secure. I think it's continuing to just let the energy build among the population, because if we don't have the support, if the military doesn't have the support for all the stuff that they need to do from the people, it breaks out into chaos. I mean, we look at 2019, 2020 with Antifa BLM. So I believe the same thing. I believe they're riding this thing to get the people to where the people need to be. That's my opinion. And I do know this over the last number of years, traveling and talking to all these people. You mentioned how bad school taxes are in El Paso. Mike, you brought that up. This school tax, or even the school bond fraud, catastrophe heading our way. My belief is, no matter what happens at the top, military, Trump, the global realignment, if we, the people, do not stand up and start acting like free Americans, restoring a republic and taking our counties back from this corruption, this kind, it mirrors exactly what Alexis de Tocqueville said when he wrote Democracy in America, 150 years ago. Traveled a country from France to find out what made America what it is so great. And his summary was this: it's just like he said, "Look, America's great because her people are great, and when her people cease to be great, she won't remain that way." That's where we are today, because there's no greatness, in my opinion, to the degree we had when a country was founded. Too many people are sitting back, allowing these school board meetings to happen with nobody there, cranking up tax rates. These clowns, they've never run candy stores, let alone a multi-million-dollar budget, tens of millions, and they're in there voting for shit to get built and money to be spent. And case in point, district here, 1/3 less people in school than when I was here, like triple the budget. This is insanity.
Oh, El
When
Paso's
you're
worse, bro.
losing students left and right, you can't keep building shit, and you can't keep raising taxes. I say this, and I took this fight on because I listened to my dad for 50 years. Looks like I froze again. My dad for 50 years. I've listened to my dad bitch constantly for decades. More school tax increase, more school. I wasn't paying him, so it wasn't a big deal to me. But now you see this stuff. These people will never stop until they're stopped. Plain and simple. The battlefield, in my opinion, is local if we're going to get this country back, because there's the culture of corruption came from the top, Clinton era, Bush and Clinton, clear to the bottom, and it's everywhere. It's this little town that I grew up in. What I'm learning from the people that I'm talking to here, whistleblowers, school board whistleblowers, and other people, the corruption here is staggering to me. I'm like, this quaint little beautiful, middle American town. Now we even have it at this level. Anyways, I'm not going to do any name call. I'm going to keep the gasket from rupturing, because I got to do the event tomorrow. I want to save it for tomorrow, but that's where in my opinion, that's America has got to recover herself. There's no amount of military that could make this thing get back to where it once was. There has to be a culture shift, and I think Trump and the machine are driving this to make it so front and center in this country, in people's minds, like, holy shit, this is that bad. We can't possibly survive this. And there's some type of big thing that happens that changes this right here, a mental change. So we say, you know what? We're never allowing this to happen again. And then what do we behave differently? We start holding people accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think those taxes, El Paso's the worst. El Paso's disgusting, man. Like, you got to hire someone to fight your property taxes every year. It's terrible. And, so what we're dealing with that here, it's a Democrat-run town. It's completely corrupt. Every politician is crooked. The cartels run everything. It's a disaster here, and I can't wait till this gets cleaned out, because I know it's going to. I know it's going to be top to the bottom, man. I know that's why I'm telling you, these midterms are going to decide everything, and there's no way in hell I'm even thinking this is going to an election. I'm wondering, will the Democrats, once Trump makes the move, what are the Democrats going to do? And that's going to decide everything from there on forward, man. So I don't know what magnitude of maybe terror events, or what they could possibly do, but I know that the USAID defunded them. I know the ICE raids, we went in and took down a lot of terrorist cells, but that doesn't mean we got them all. And I'm sure there's still a lot that will be activated. I'll never forget when I did that article on Mobile, Alabama, the lake there was a dam that had an IED there. And it's like, what the hell is an IED doing at a dam? Well, to take down the infrastructure, right? Imagine if they're at all the dams and it's a coordinated effort. I mean, I don't know at what level how coordinated this stuff is from their side, but I'm sure they're very equipped and ready for some kind of disaster, a response to Trump, and they're probably not going to pull the trigger prematurely. They're going to do it coordinated at a time when we, least expect it, or approaching right into midterms. I would imagine that things are going to keep escalating, but I would say that probably, if I had to guess, late October, man. Late October going into November, and probably after. That's when I would. That's when we're going to see where this really is at. Now, I don't know what magnitude. Like I said, I can't predict that, but we're going to see exactly how hot this really is, what the temperature really is, and I think, and how much of the threats Trump neutralized.
It all leads back to elections too, because if like they have been asserting people that allow this fraud and this craziness to happen, we can't get resolution on it until we remove those people that are allowing it and building with judicial walls around their corruption, that we can't even enter constitutionally as citizens to, get recompense from their criminal activity against us. Like we're talking about the fraud and the school bonds and so forth. And even in Minnesota, I was just reading this morning where Secretary Marco Rubio, they ousted some Laotian that had here illegally raped a 10-year-old girl, and they went in and prosecuted him. Governor Tim Walz pardoned him, and then they went in and said, okay, he's no longer legal status, and so they deported him. He should have been executed from the get-go. So none of this bullshit happens, because these criminals that are allowing this stuff to happen, that are destroying America, are going to continue to do that, like a Tim Walz. So I know there's a lot of people in Minnesota is like, we didn't vote for him. Yeah, you didn't vote for him because they inserted him, just like they did Newsom and all these other criminals that are in treasonous criminals that are in these, Colorado. You name the state almost these days. There's criminals there that are criminal cartels, and it's insane. So we have to get resolution now. I think there may be, because I've heard from some people that are close to Trump, uh, that they may pass the Save America Act at the last minute. That way, it doesn't give them, like we're all talking about, the ability to play their games. Because
but they'll still hold it up in court, and it won't meet the fruition by the time we come to midterms. It'll be held up.
We know it doesn't matter what we pass. The Democrats are still going to cheat in their states, just like we saw in the last election. Everywhere there was, a Democrat state, they allowed people to come in and vote without an ID.
But since they've been taking the federal funding, they're going to have to cooperate with whatever Trump signs. And that's where it's going to get tricky.
Look at Colorado. No, they don't have to. They don't have to. They'll continue to thumb their nose.
No doubt about it. They're going to be defiant.
Yeah.
But this is when the country's going to go. This is what we're talking about. This is when shit goes into disarray.
Yeah. Well, election fraud, if it gets, revealed, which I think it can, we've talked about this for a while. Both of us have had Maria Zack on. She says there's threats of they'll use nukes if they, disclose. Will it be an open nuke, or will it be a nuke on a fault line? Like we've seen, I think they used the fault line nuke in Japan when Fallujah was not Fallujah. Fukushima, thank you, was destroyed. So, there's lots of different ways, like we're talking about, these psychopaths can, try and ruin us. So we're another one of these things, that gets, out there, and is even worse than the one prior that we had to deal with 6 years ago, and took all of us down with you, Nino. So you've been able to, like, survive. You're one of the survivors. I've come back, and Scott, I put shows up that I've done with you, and they come and taking them down
Jeez.
because it's your name. These criminals are still onto us, guys, and we've all had problems with our shows, all of us.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, no doubt about it. I mean, it's still alive and well, man.
yeah,
This is not going away. It's an ideology that's immersed itself and puts its tentacles into the American psychology and society for decades now. And I mean, the people you got to really worry about, man. I mean, I know like MS-13, the cartels, the Hamas, Hezbollah, those. I'm sure a lot of those organizers and terrorist cells have been taken down. That's what the ICE raids were for initially, the big sweep. But dude, you got to worry about your crazy neighbor,
yeah.
like the purple-haired fucking liberal lady next door that's gonna just lose her fucking mind. She's not gonna be able to take this shit. I mean, no, really. I mean, think about the crazy people you see on a day-to-day basis that are going to be ready to snap.
Oh yeah.
Just when they find out they're not gonna the midterms maybe are delayed. Like this is gonna set off a lot of triggered people.
Yeah.
Just that's a wild card we have to all think about. Like they're gonna feel like this is being taken from them, and they will fight to the death. They're gonna look at us like bigots and Nazis because they bought into the MSN media. That's what I'm worried about, dude. I'm not worried about I think the gangs and the cartels and the Hamas and all. I think most of them have been neutralized. But dude, the wild card, your neighbor, your crazy cat piss smelling neighbor that's fucking drinking wine by herself, just going through crazy shit in her head all day long. That's gonna lose
By
it.
herself, because
By herself,
you're not
yeah.
reproducing. That's
No.
why the birth rate is down, because the wokesters aren't reproducing. Those of us that are conservative, we got babies, and we're still
Yeah.
babies. But we can't wait this out. We can't wait for them to like cancel themselves out.
But dude, they're gonna go nut. You realize that they're gonna lose their shit.
Even if
Oh
they
yeah,
do,
they're
Nino,
already
I mean,
crazy. Yeah.
look at some of these. I mean, look, what are they going to do, right? All these leftists. Okay, I'm going to grab a gun and shoot you. I mean, they'll grab a gun. They'll probably shoot themselves, or if they
They
come
probably
out
won't even know how
fighting,
to
they'll be
load
like
it.
this. They'll be come out to try to fight you like this, right? What kind of violence they're going to bring? It'll be a complete mow down. I mean, it's absurd. You ever see that one Antifa riot where the big dude's out there, and here comes kid with a ball bat, and he just turns like this, and here it comes right at him. He just puts his hands up, grabs the ball bat,
Oh
wham, and just
yeah,
backs
yeah.
his dude. Guy just topples like a building. That's what happens. My buddy in Colorado, his name is Kelly. We've said this shit for decades. I wish that shit would. Why doesn't that shit ever happen to me? Because we think about how can people stand around and let this happen? We would just be breaking bones and tossing them aside, grabbing the breaking bones and tossing them aside. Nobody seems to. You realize what happens if the powder keg in Middle America goes off, like patriotic America? It ends overnight. That's what we're trying to get people to stand up, not to do this, but to get to in front of the political bodies. But if the people would just stand, we outnumber even the lunatic. We outnumber them so badly, it would be a complete mow down. And that's the thing. None of these people who behave this way, they've never been in a fight, right? They've never shot a gun. They've never dodged a bullet. And you know how it is, a bully, first time he's cracked, wham! And then he's off balance. The dude beats the shit out of him. It was like, oh my God, I thought the bully was untouchable. No, his brain has never experienced wham, like holy shit. And it freezes, it doesn't know how to process it. Then they get their ass kicked. That's what they've never had, a real wake-up call. And again, for the MTP liberals, I'm not talking about we need to punch people in the face, that even if they deserve it, which they do. But once there's a move against somebody that they're not like a criminal. Like if somebody starts to fight back, that's what we say with a woman. If they're going to ever abduct you and take you, even if you're going to be getting beaten, punched, fight to the death, grab everything you can. Don't let them get you into a car. Why do you do that? Because it's too much trouble. Their brains have always physically overpowered people. Everybody cowers, and it's easy pickings. But when somebody goes like lunatic and like screaming, scratching their eyes, after a minute, they're like, holy shit, I'm getting out of here. They've never experienced their brains in shock, and they don't know what to do, like, and they bail out. That's what happens on the other side if that powder keg goes. And one last thing I'll say, Nino, you kind of alluded to this point, and it's important that people understand this. Exactly what he said. Everybody keeps bitching that it's taken too long. You have zero idea what they're protecting us from. Q Operations said we will not make a single move until we can guarantee the safety of the American people. You don't understand. It is still that battle, and they have their bombs, like metaphorical, they can detonate on each other. That's catastrophic for everybody. They don't want to do that. They're playing this out, but there's still that threat. The other side loves death. They love the energy of misery and all that, so they don't care. They'll do it on the way out the door. We want life. We won't do that, on us or anybody else. That's why this thing's taken so long, and it's going to take a lot longer as long as people sit back in their own communities and take the same shit from the local politicians until they stand up and say, we are effing done with this bullshit and show up. Then we're going to continue on this path until it gets to the scare tactic, or till, like Juan said, a near-death experience of this country before people wake up and say, holy shit, what happened? How we're going to lose our country?
I can definitely see the movement, though. I don't know if you guys can. It's picking up speed. Like, people are definitely getting involved now, more so than ever, I think.
Yeah. Hey, Mike should, Travis and Mitch Vexler. There's a show. I'll send you guys the link. It's 30 minutes. They're talking about this school board thing. How they got these school boards around the country, especially Travis. He's got them on the run. I mean, there's people in jail, cops, city officials, all this from what he's doing.
Yeah.
Open records requests, send them in, and you can get AI to write these things. They're better than an attorney, and their attorneys are like, holy shit, we're in trouble. They're flooding with these things, and they're running scared because why? If they do not comply with like a 10-day window or whatever it is and submit that paperwork to a FOIA request, it's a felony. And they've got people back in the corner all over the country. I'll send you guys a video. I'm playing it at the event tomorrow. I'm playing it to show the people. Do you see what's working here? We have the power. We just don't understand. We don't have the knowledge of the law, all those kind of things to go do it, or the courage from a lot of people's standpoint. But there's a serious weapon that now these guys are utilizing against these town and city councils. The property tax raises that are illegal because they're jacking people's property tax or their values way up. Way up. They're using a specific software. Mitch said a physicist wrote the software. I forget who, a mathematician discovered it, but they're using software. Here's how much money we want. How much money do we need to get out of these people? Okay, let the software value their homes so it's high enough for everybody that we get the money we need. It's complete theft. Well, that is what they're going after, and they're burying these people everywhere. So I think this might be the trigger point when people discover how badly they're being screwed and ripped off. At some point, they got to blow the gasket. That's the only way we get our country back as a whole. When people just say, fuck this, I am done being robbed. These scumbags have never done anything except raise taxes 40 years here. We're wiping them out. And then get everybody under a watchful eye, every move they make. Scrutiny, analysis, FOIA requests, whatever. But until we hold these people in these elected positions accountable, America will never return to its greatness. Never. But I believe we're going to get there.
Well, we're in alignment too, the horoscopes and, planetary alignment. When the Civil War happened last time, when World War I happened. So this is a time where, people start to revolt and so forth. We can't, I know we think these guys, we can take them pretty easy, the blue hairs and so forth. Yeah, for some of them. But just think back to, again, the Civil War. That should have been a war that never would have happened because the guys that fought on each side had just fought in the Mexican-American War. And they went down there, kicked Mexico's ass, and they came back and they're in a civil war, and they picked sides. and the Democrat Party still was able to survive. I think they assassinated Abraham Lincoln and got away with it. So we're still dealing with. They created the KKK. They voted against blacks being able to vote. I mean, just women being able to vote. They're still corrupt as hell, but people still get brainwashed into backing them. So this is the problem we have right now. We still have these people that are brainwashed for centuries. So to discount them that's you got to be careful with that. So I think the side that we're doing, and I know we've all talked about it, and I believe it's having an impact on them. It's the way to go. We do this until we can't do it anymore. We have to go kinetic or something. I hope we never go kinetic. I don't think we are, but there is a possibility. And just like our brother Nino was saying, everything revolves around that midterm. Both sides are, pivoting on that midterm. So what happens to one side or the other? If Democrats get it, I was telling you guys, I'm probably going kinetic, right at that point, and they're probably thinking the same thing. So we can't discount this. This is very, very serious time. So we have to look at this and try and do this legally. Try and wake people up. Look, they cheated on the 2020 election. Y'all can see it now, but still, we're going to have a lot of these people they don't care. They don't care, and they're going to still stay with their side because that's the way they're programmed.
Think about the fractured MAGA too.
Yeah.
I mean, you think how many people Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson have absorbed? How many people hate Israel and now hate Trump? I mean, I don't back Israel at all. I'll tell you that right now. But I know that I'm still saving that space for saving Israel for last, and it does look like Trump is making some decisions to where it's frustrating and tensions are rising with Benjamin Netanyahu. So I am watching this play out in my mind. I'm seeing how this goes. But there's a lot of people that are fed up with Israel and Trump's backing of Israel, and they've already jumped ship, man. And we got to be careful of those people too, because those are going to be the rogue warriors that maybe are not on the Democratic side, but they hate Trump too. Maybe they're not with the Democrats, but they're going to be a whole separate group that are patriots, right? That now look at Trump as the enemy. So they're going to be a problem, dude.
Well,
those people will be. Yeah. And so just think about that. Like, just think about our broken side, man. So to me, you may not be worried about the Democrats, but what about the disgruntled Republicans that are now turning their back on Trump? They're out there. So there's those guys. And you got to think like, this is going to come to a head. We already can feel it. And now we're like coming to this boiling point where the pimples got to pop, dude. I mean, they're going to have no choice. And I think Trump knows this. And that's why he's taking his time. He's probably going to wait, in my mind, until the last second to do this national security emergency. And then executive orders so that it gives them less time. But damn well, dude, behind the scenes, they know exactly what Trump's going to do. They're just as methodical and well thought out as we are on our side, and they're waiting for its move and counter move, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what they're waiting for. My question, I wanted to bring this up to you guys too, because what do you guys think is going on with Mitch McConnell? Because something's going on with Mitch McConnell, and what do you think the strategy is behind that?
They want to wait till August 2nd when the Democrat that's running Kentucky can't insert somebody. So, even though he's been voting against, Save America Act and some other stuff, he has been voting in good Republicans. He's not 100%, obviously. He's maybe 80, maybe even less. 80%, you're like, you're not any help to the Republican Party anymore. But that's what we've seen in Kentucky as well. With who was that one congressman that everybody loved that just got taken out by SEAL Team 6 guy they used to work with. so you're seeing, yeah. So you're seeing. I don't want to mention him because I don't want to give him any energy. So you're seeing he who must not be named. You're seeing this go round and round like we're talking about all the way to the end. I agree with you, and they have to maintain what little control they still have. So at first I was like, this is outrageous. And now I'm like, I see what they're doing. So I'm kind of on board with it actually.
You know, I
I'll
had.
tell you,
Oh, go ahead.
tell
Go
you,
ahead, Scott.
I'll tell you why I still have this sense of peace and comfort, even though we're going to hit the rapids. I have no doubt about that. It always comes back to like fundamental things with me because it makes it easier work for me to think. I don't have to think as much. So I look at it this way. Our side knows their playbook. We know that, right? They know their playbook. They know every because it's the same game plan they have always used, right? Same playbook, completely captured playbook. They've got it all. What the other side doesn't have is our side's playbook because they've never seen it. Nobody has. That's why I believe because they know everything that these guys have ever done. Now, doesn't mean they won't be malleable, but our side have never really shown their hand. They're completely at a disadvantage. And so I think a lot of the moves that they make also are, again, doing these things to get them to behave a certain way so everybody gets to see it. The bullshit, to get it in people's minds, keep going and going and going. Now do you see? Yeah, we see it. Over here they don't. Keep pushing. Now do you see? Oh yeah, finally I see. I just have that, and I could be totally wrong, but I don't know where a peace in my soul comes from, but that's the way I can explain it. Again, we're watching a movie, greatest show, the greatest story will ever be told. You think thousands of years of this shit, you don't have to come up with a plan that can psychologically bring the world to a place where they say, yeah, let's all do this. It's going to be awesome. I just think that. I think there's casualties along the way, as every war. And I think there could be some things that may not work out like the way they think, but I think they always have the backup option B, C, D, E, and F. And it basically inevitably becomes bulletproof because I look at it this way. Trump and General Flynn said this to me once. We were in somebody's plane going to a Joey Gilbert campaign event, and he said, it's kind of like what you set up on stage, Scott. Like, go ahead and take me out. All right, he's taunting these guys. You can take me out anytime, but you're going to deal with 22 million pissed off Patriot Street fighters. See how that works out for you. And he goes, when you say that, he goes, he said that's the way we see this. He said it's real. He said, look, if we lose this, we're all dead, right? Trump knows that too. And the military knows that too, that if this doesn't work out, if we lost, Trump lost, whatever, it's a murder spree to get rid of everybody who ever gets in their way again. And because they know that, that's why I believe their confidence when they made this final move to take this thing down, that they knew no matter what, we have everything we need to do to bury these people. You're going to survive. Your family's not going to be wiped out. Because they would wipe out your whole bloodline. They'd be going around the planet. That's why I still have this confidence that this is more about the Great Awakening than it is winning this global battle. That's why I keep telling people, focus on the light, keep focusing on what you see is happening and changing. Because the three of us know there's so much unbelievable shit happening behind this wall of all this stuff. We can see it, but most people can't because what are they looking at? They're looking over the same shit they've looked at their whole lives. But we just spent the last 6, 8, 10 years analyzing every single thing happening. We're like, oh yeah, look at this. You just mentioned a couple of these today. They just arrested the city clerk in Champaign, Illinois yesterday. They just arrested him. And these are the people responsible for stealing elections. That shit's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So anyways, doesn't mean we're not going to head for the, hit a wall and have to battle in some way, shape, or form. But I'm still having a lot of fun with this thing.
Yeah.
I think, we're definitely coming to the climax for sure. And you know what? I do like what Mike said earlier. I can't help but look at and I've had guests on talking about astrology and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, the planetary alignments, I wonder what they're going to be in November. Like, I don't put now I know the audience is be like, oh, don't buy into that stuff. I get what you're saying, but I think there's something there because those are energies, those are solar energies. And when you look at when I had a lady on, Grace, that's, she's kind of like a local celebrity here in El Paso. She does a lot of stuff on the radio and talks about astrology and stuff, but she talks about the planetary alignments are exactly mirroring 1776, 2026 and 1776. I wonder what it's going to be in November. Like, I wonder what the planetary alignments are, because I kind of, it's not that I worship that stuff, but I don't at all. But I believe in God is above everything. But there's something to this shit, because the billionaires follow this stuff, not the millionaires. The billionaires do, and they coordinate everything they do around this stuff.
Yeah.
So there's something there, man, that we should pay attention to. So when people talk about that stuff, I don't dismiss it. I always think, that's
If
interesting.
you've ever worked in a bar, like I have as a bouncer and a bartender,
Yeah.
you know during the full moon.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
100%.
And you ask our police officer, they'll tell you, yeah, this full moon. So it does have an impact on human consciousness, on the body, and so forth. Yeah. So that's a great point. I got to reach out and find out, what they're.
Yeah. That should be a great guest for you too.
Yeah.
I can prove we all know this. Every guy knows this, right? If things aren't good at home with a lady or whatever, and you got to tell her about something, you just kind of you go to the chart.
Exactly.
I don't. Yeah, I mean,
don't be a fool. Be cool.
I just think there's something to it, man. I mean, I don't see how you could dismiss it. And look at all the cycles ending and beginning now, like the red blood moons. There's been so many of them. The 2017 Virgin constellation, the birth constellation, everything that's been happening, man, are these cycles and that have been ending and beginning. Like, we are at a period of time celestially that there are endings and beginnings, and I do believe the old guard is being brought down. Yes. And it's going to bring a massive upheaval and unrest.
Yep.
It's just
totally agree.
The evolution of humanity. It's just, if we want to get to this new paradigm shift in consciousness, this kind of, you got to battle and wrestle with the old consciousness, and that's what's happening right now. And I don't think we've reached the peak of it. I think it's coming.
Yeah,
it's a good parallel. Good parallel is this. Two thoughts I had, and then I'll tell you the parallel. You just see the scene, like your buddy is talking to you about something that just went on at home with the lady, right? And he's like, "What? You told her that yesterday? Did you not look at the freaking moon before you said that?" Jesus, dude, everybody knows that. But you said something that makes sense. And we've all been, we've been acquiescent to this for years. It is the energy frequency of the shift. As I said many times, when you're asking anybody, hey, what, your little kid, you got your box of crayons, right? Your Crayolas. And I always do this experiment, ask people, if you're going to draw the little picture you did when you were young. Okay. So you drew grass and a sky and a tree. Your grass, what do you use? Green, tree, brown, green, sky, blue, sun, orange, red. So when they say, yeah, orange or red or whatever, I say, okay, tomorrow go outside, look at the sun and tell me what color it is. They go, look up. That's white as white.
White now, dude.
Because we're moving through this part of the solar system, a highly charged part, or our solar system's moving through this area in the universe that's highly charged, which is affecting this planet. It is heating it up. It's heating up every planet. NASA published an article 3 years ago that all the planets are heating up. Why? Because of that high energy thing. But that, whatever this could be, a solar flare, a burst, or whatever, that energetically helps our transition, like you said, Nino, a shift, a spiritual shift. Here's a parallel proof. How are they programming these people? Voice to skull technology, making them think stuff, go murder, kill themselves. Frequency. Yeah. Frequency. They're behaving differently because they're hitting with whatever frequencies to make that happen. You're talking about the natural evolutionary frequency of the sun and everything else hitting humanity, and hopefully that is the upgrade that stops chaos from happening to be as bad as it could be. Maybe they know that and they think, okay, we're going to move this along, because when we get to this point, this powder keg could blow, but it's not, because that we're going to be in the realm of that frequency. Because you said, like, Nina, you're looking at the whole movement of the all the cosmos, and like you said, they know all this information. They call it new age. They call it woo-woo bullshit. They've been studying it, living it, utilizing it for thousands of years the ones that control the planet. So it's obviously true and has merit because they utilize that. They just make sure we never know anything about it. But now we're learning. Now we're knowing.
I remember when the sun used to be like a corn on the cob yellow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember that, guys? Like it was a completely different sun. And now it's like this white, like a LED light or something. Like it's just white. It's not yellow anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, from my observation, so like something's happening, something's changing.
Yeah, a lot of energies bursting off the sun more than ever. We're getting crazy earthquakes and volcanoes, you know. I think it's going to intensify, but that's part of what we're talking about. The old going out, being destroyed, and the new coming in. The rebirth, the birth, right, of something new. And that's where everybody's been talking about this for a long time, and here we're at that point. Now it's a birthing process. It's not like, okay, the baby's out and grows up right away. No, it's going to be a process. So it's going to take time, and we've talked about it. How it's not going to be like, okay, we round this corner, deep state gets taken down. There's heavy infiltration. You know, it's going to take time to like find these, you know, criminals and root them out.
Yeah, for every scumbag that gets taken down, 3 or 4 more pop up. You know, they're like gremlins, dude. They multiply with like water. But like to me, it's so obvious now. Like to me, you know, I definitely can feel time and space speeding up. Like I wait a minute, dude. Like I just told him that. Well, I thought that was just like 2 days ago. It's just like everything is speeding up because there's more options and choices within a minute now than ever before. Nobody's bored anymore. I mean, the minute you get off this Zoom call, I mean, remember there was times like I remember sitting at my grandma's house when I was a kid and I could hear the grandfather clock ding dong ding, and I'd just be so friggin' bored. And then I knew at 2 o'clock court TV comes on, I'm gonna have to watch it with her. And then I would remember like all this boring shit, right? And then my mom would pick me up and I'd be bored for fucking hours. You're never bored anymore. No, that's not even an option. No one's bored anymore. The minute we get off this Zoom call, you'll be distracted with this or something happens. It's just everything's speeding up because we have so many more choices within a minute now. You go to Starbucks, there's 100 different ways to order a coffee, man. Since when?
You just leave because you're confused. Yeah, you just like,
it's analysis process. But you go to Starbucks, you have 100 different ways to order a coffee, any coffee you want. You leave Starbucks, you're looking at your phone again, so you're getting those dopamine hits. People in airports now. I remember I used to dread being in an airport over a layover. Now people just plug into the internet. They're on their computer. They're on their phone. It's over. It's quick. You leave. I mean, a 2-hour, 3-hour layover at an airport's not bad anymore. It goes by like 30, 45 minutes. Not bored, dude. People used to have to read books. Nobody reads books anymore. You're constantly listening to something or doing something. It's just the world has changed, man. And it's only going to speed up with AI and quantum. Like, get ready for you better hope that we figure out a way to extend life, because if we're only living 60, 70 years, that's going to be like that for everybody. It's just it's going to be so quick. You're going to at least want to try to get 120, 150 years of life in you, because that's how fast time is moving now, that you're not going to even feel that. My dad's 91 and I'm talking to him and he's like, where did this all go? Like, I'm already here. Like, this was yesterday. I was 20.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, it doesn't make sense to him, you know? And it's true. It's just everything is speeding up. And I was told this years ago by the Mayans when I was down there in Mexico that this was going to happen. And it's called universal consciousness.
Yep.
Guys, I got to get going. Is that okay?
4 agreements. I love the Mayan stuff. So, yeah, it's everything's speeding up. I mean, we used to be like it would take months and months and months, and sometimes years to come, for our conspiracy theories to become true. Everybody agrees with them. Now it's like a week, and it's speeding up. It's going to be faster. And I used to read, like you're talking about, I used to do dozens of books every year. Now, if it's not on audio, I'm probably not going to read it.
Nobody reads it anymore.
I got it on 2 times speed, and it's like.
Dude, I'll read a paper and I'll look at it and all of a sudden my eyes start getting tired. Like, I don't know what the hell the deal is, man.
Yeah.
too. I'm the same way. I've read voracious. I've read more hell more books out of college than I read the whole my life up till that point in time. But and people send me books. I got three just new books that came in. I got eight that came in 3 weeks ago. People send me books all the time. It's such a such a beautiful thing, and I really would love to be able to read the books because it means that much to them, and it's all great stuff. But I've got a stack from the floor to the ceiling right now, and I look at them like I'm kind of ashamed of myself. You don't even read anymore, but you just can't. Your brain's on overload with all everything else. I like you, Nino. I start to read now. I like my eyes start to close. I just can't. Just
Yeah.
got to get
It's like I know we all do research, for our shows, and I'm doing research. If you start too early, because that stuff's gonna be old school by the end of the day. So you have to like I'm doing stuff at just before a show, and I'm like, I gotta delay the show. Look at all this stuff coming. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I'll do a show and have it ready to go the next morning, and then I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I wake up and I check the news again, and I have to go.
Good luck with that.
My heart. Thank you. Yeah. So I love you guys, man.
Be safe out there, folks. Stay in prayers for Nino. Make sure he gets better fast because we need him on the battlefield.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
All right. Much love, ladies and gentlemen. That's the three amigos. Got a short hit today. We'll be back a couple of weeks and see anything transpires. Mike and I'll make sure you know where we're headed, what's going. So good to see you today, brother.
You too, brother. Thanks a lot. Great.
Hello, Patriots. I'm at Restored Republic via a GCR update compiled by Judy Byington. The time has come. On Tuesday, the old fiat currency SWIFT system died as the privately owned Federal Reserve was neutralized and the gold asset-backed global currency reset went into effect. And a quote from Angela Schwint: while we try to teach our children all about life, our children teach us what life is all about. Judy, note, the White House has signaled that the time has come. July 7th at exactly 1410 Eastern Standard Time, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. On that same Tuesday, July 7th at exactly 1544 EST, a joint task force of Alliance White Hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. At exactly 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on that Tuesday, July 7th, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Sometime in the next 2 days, a blackout and lockdown will become global in all countries of the world. As we edge closer to Friday the 24th and Saturday the 25th of July, 2026, the Earth Alliance, in conjunction with Starlink and other military satellites, will unleash the emergency broadcast system. Every cell phone on Earth will be hit with a loud alert signal transmitted directly from Starlink, bypassing traditional media, which is controlled by the elites. The media will have no say, no control. The blackout and lockdown will last for 10 to 12 days when everyone will be asked to stay at home during a specific 5-hour window. You will see the Global Military Alliance on the streets making arrests of corrupt pedophiles. The corruption was coming to an end. The old world would end with a broadcast. The new world would begin as you explain to those around you what has been going on. Right now, Trump's Global Military Alliance was in the middle of the greatest sting operation the world has ever known as they took down the Satan-worshipping November 2020, President Trump instigated the Insurrection Act and turned over control of the country to the U.S. military. An interim military U.S. government has been running our country ever since. The two U.S. governments: number one, a legitimate interim military U.S. government empowered by the Constitution and the Department of Defense under Military Code 11.3, and two, an illegal, fraudulent, foreign, paid-for, foreign-controlled, on the foreign ground of the District of Columbia, Biden administration. On December 20th, 2020, President Trump was informed of tunnels buried 2 miles beneath Capitol Hill. Convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and his sidekick Maxwell had given up maps of the global tunnel system, a major income producer for the cabal Illuminati. Since right before Biden's 20th of January 2021 presidential inauguration and to today, Capitol Hill has been surrounded with 8-foot-high barbed wire fencing guarded with from the inside by 30,000 National Guard troops, some of whom had been authorized to make arrests. And there's a link to communist troops around a U.S. under martial law inauguration, not live on TV. On January 24th and 25th, 2021, so-called President Biden, 355 congressmen, and 109 senators were said to have been arrested for a total of 465 elected, some retired officials who would soon face military tribunals, most of their charges surrounding pedophilia. In March 2020, an international military force repatriated to the U.S. Treasury and other nations 650 plane loads of gold and cash from the Vatican, according to Charlie Ward, Ph.D., whose team secured the gold and valuables. The military also arrested 13 demon bloodline families, mafia heads, the Pope, and 350 personnel in the Vatican. When they cleared out the Vatican of cash, gold, and valuables in 650 plane loads and flew it to Fort Knox and other U.S. Treasury locations. Ward continued, and there's the link to that. By Saturday, April 17, 2020, the military RV security teams and quantum financial system tech personnel had revamped the London financial and forex system. On Sunday, April 18, 2020, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin markets crashed. Bitcoin was headquartered and run by the Vatican under the Chinese Communist Party's Three Gorges Dam. On Monday, April 19, 2020, scores of U.S. Treasury employees serving the cabal were arrested. As many as 100 and likely more were caught red-handed in a scheme to fund the next CV-19 stimulus, stop the global currency reset, and keep on printing fiat dollars. Since Monday, April 19, 2020, market opening, all international markets, including the U.S. stock market and dollar index, were in the red and imploding, although at times the figure snuck up to green. As of Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, the Illuminati cabal-owned Fed, IRS, and World Bank have been deprived of accessing their passcodes, could not transfer funds through their online system, and thus were considered broke. The Federal Reserve, IRS, and World Bank have been locked out of their accounts with the passwords changed. They can no longer transfer monies. Despite a Trump executive order that made it unlawful for any more printing of the fiat U.S. dollar, the Biden administration continued the practice at the defunct Federal Reserve Bank. Just a few days ago, the U.S. interim military government took charge and arrested over 100 members.
Judy note. For the past 12 years in my daily update, Restored Republic via a GCR have tried to keep the public posted on the latest news regarding the global currency reset and formation of the Restored Republic under concepts of the original Constitution. The GCR and Restored Republic have now arrived. You should see it unfold this coming week. With the upcoming 10 days of darkness and takeover of the fake news, media by the military to publish real news. Soon my update will no longer be needed. I will continue to write the Restored Republic via a GCR update until then. Afterwards, I will be writing articles and publishing books, the subject of which will surround a mission, and that is so rampant in our society. See home. Judy Byington, because of hackers and other problems, I have been facing considerable challenges in getting my daily update out. Now it appeared that those problems have been worked out. I thank all the encouragement and support received from editors and readers, especially Medea of American Media Group, Patrick of Dinar Chronicles, my Angel Marty of Rumor Mills.
Well, we thought we knew, but didn't really know, and now we're supposed to know, but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies, Hollywood style, and Trump's military lines throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. On September 11, 2001, 2 planes hit 2 buildings and 3 buildings fell down. World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed, and with it, some of the most high-profile Wall Street cases and financial crimes to ever be brought into investigation had all evidence destroyed. Building 7 was a controlled demolition. It housed CIA offices. 9/11 was done by CIA, Mossad, ISIS. There were no hijackers. Operation Northwoods. CIA, Mossad, ISIS is owned and operated by the Rothschild Rockefeller cartel. They hate you and want to impoverish, control, starve you via Great Reset, New World Order. JFK Jr.
Possible timing. Fry. 3 July 2026. GESARA NESARA protocols broadcast. All mortgages, credit cards, and student loans linked to usury were frozen for liquidation. SAT. 4 July 2026. Behind closed doors, the new quantum financial system has been infiltrating the cabal's old SWIFT fiat currency infrastructure. Account freezes were real, and the military has been positioned for final transition. Also on 4 July 2026, at 11:12 UTC, with the military tribunals begun, quantum financial keys overrode the legacy mainframe of the Vatican Bank, and the assets of the corrupt were seized and redistributed to the Humanity Reclamation Fund. Every citizen would soon be allocated a secure digital vault backed by physical gold. On Sun. 5 July at 06:13 a.m. EST Operation Mass Arrest 705 began. 847 federal judges, 456 CIA officials, 234 senators, congressmen, and 678 FBI officials arrested. Global liquidity release. On 7 July at exactly 14:10 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. A worldwide debt jubilee and RV of currencies to gold asset-backed activated. Law enforcement shifts to natural law protections under concepts of the original Constitution. The revaluation, RV of 209 countries' currencies to be gold asset-backed comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activation begins for those whose accounts have been cleared. At exactly 06:00 EST on 7 July 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. On 7 July at exactly 15:44 EST, a joint task force of Alliance white hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. On 8 July, the SWIFT routing hubs in Brussels and London are scheduled for an irreversible protocol disconnect. The central banks will likely report this as a major regional internet blackout or a transatlantic fiber optic breakdown. The reality is a hard quantum override. Any institution failing to meet the gold-backed ISO 20022 standard will have its liquidity clearance certificates revoked by midnight. On 9 July, the core databases managing private consumer liabilities are being systematically decoupled from public identities. The ledger files for millions of mortgages, auto loans, and high-interest credit lines engineered through fractional reserve fraud are transitioning to a zero-balance state. The corporate banks are losing their administrative authority codes, leaving them legally unable to enforce foreclosures or collections. Global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. On 10 July, the distribution nodes for Tier 4B liquidity are officially entering active status under the global enforcement of NESARA/GESARA. The sovereign assets and gold reserves reclaimed from the legacy trusts are bypassing the commercial banking grid entirely, routing directly into the wealth pipelines of the sovereign citizens. 14 July 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve, finished. The IRS, finished. The old financial order, finished. Pay close attention to the sudden, unannounced early branch closures of major financial institutions in your city over the next 48 hours. They cannot print paper debt to balance their sheets anymore, and their private transit routes are being monitored. Global currency reset. On 7 July at exactly 14:10 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. On 7 July at exactly 15:44 EST, a joint task force of Alliance White Hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system at exactly 06:00 EST on 7 July 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Sometime in the next 2 days, a blackout and lockdown will become global in all countries of the world as we edge closer to Fry 24 and SAT 25 July 2026. The Earth Alliance, in conjunction with Starlink and other military satellites, will unleash the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Any day now, the cabal's central banks around the world were anticipating a fiat US dollar collapse. This was necessary for the introduction of the new gold asset-backed currency on the quantum financial system, QFS. 8 July 2026 Marxy. The bond people claim they're absolutely receiving 1% of their payout on Fry. 10 July 2026. A source said it is rolling out east to west, and Asia has already begun. 8 July Wolverine chat. Looks like things are moving 100%. Received news that things have officially started for the bonds. I hear that 4B should be released anytime this week. Amiel Alston. It's 1:15 midnight here in South Africa. I just want to confirm that the overall picture is looking extremely positive and also moving very quickly. And this is happening worldwide. So, as you rightfully pointed out, many people are now liquid, many people are paid. We won't know exactly who that is because of the NDAs. But I can confidently say to everyone, all the groups except Tier 5 are moving according to sources that I have. So Tier 1, 2, 3, 4, even in South Africa and in some nations in Africa, are moving forward. Remember, China is spearheading the implementation of JASARA and the QFS in Africa, together with Russia and India. 7 July 2026 Bruce. The Big Call Universe, IBIS. Com. 667-770-1866, access code 123,456 hash. A good source said if Tier 4B doesn't get notification by Thursday, 9 July, then it will happen by the weekend. Another source said that if everything went as planned over the weekend, then Tier 4B would be in exchanges the early part of next week.
Judy note, no one knows the exact date for notification of appointments for Tier 4B, US, the Internet Group, to exchange foreign currencies, but deadlines shown in the above timing indicate it to be very soon. We have been told that Wells Fargo, which is controlled by the Chinese elders, the ones who own the gold behind the global currency reset, will send out emails to currency and bondholders worldwide, telling them how to set redemption and exchange appointments. It is advised to redeem your foreign currency at an official redemption center, RC, rather than a bank. You can only redeem ZIM at an RC. The dinar contract rate can only be given at an RC, and banks will offer you lower exchange rates than what you can obtain at an RC. You can only set up your new wallet, bank account, at an RC. It was my understanding that most banks were under control of the cabal and would soon play a different role in the global financial system.
Wednesday, July 8th, the Vatican mainframe has just experienced a terminal hard reset. Do not look away. The absolute lockdown of the Roman financial sector today has nothing to do with standard European banking updates. While the mainstream channels are instructing the public to focus on the sudden, unannounced suspension of administrative operations across Italian central clearing houses, the true fracture is occurring within the deepest vault networks of the old empire. The corporate press is already coordinating a narrative to explain a massive imminent satellite broadcast interruption across southern Europe. But the live back-end logs reveal a surgical, tactical reality. At exactly 1410 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Institute for the Works of Religion, the Vatican Bank, to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. The elite asset managers have lost their primary decryption privileges, and the operational trajectory for the next 72 hours is now completely locked into the quantum financial system. Here is the unedited technical breakdown of the upcoming timeline. The Rome detachment, the secret ledger networks that have historically routed trillions in unbacked global wealth through private offshore entities, are offline. Alliance tech teams have successfully bypassed the central security perimeter under the Vatican, securing the core data logs detailing the fraudulent debt bonds used to control sovereign nations for centuries. The Tesla grid alignment. The outdated corporate tracking grids are running on emergency reserve cells. The old power lines are calibrated to enter a brief, controlled system reset as the global financial infrastructure undergoes a mandatory migration onto the secure Tesla asset-backed network. The unbacked speculative currencies used to manipulate the markets are being neutralized in real time. The 10-country broadcast sequence, the ultimate operational phase, is standing by. 10 sovereign military divisions have finalized the synchronization of the emergency broadcast system via the secure quantum Starlink network. The second the legacy narrative channels lose their transmission capability, the screens will be populated with unsealed tribunal transcripts and the definitive truths that have been buried in the dark vaults for generations. Pay immediate attention to the sudden silent evacuation of corporate boardrooms and the unusual grounding of private administrative aircraft across the Mediterranean sectors tonight. Their tracking permissions have been revoked, and their ability to regenerate synthetic liquidity is completely dead. The old world masters wanted you to believe their financial iron curtain was indestructible, but the back end has been permanently rerouted. The validation metrics are active, and the entire control matrix has officially run out of broadcast range. The grid is transitioning. The restoration is absolute. Tuesday, July 7th. The emergency United Nations session currently flash flooding your news feeds has nothing to do with international diplomacy. While the network anchors are instructing you to watch the sudden movement of political delegates and high-level security details across Washington and New York, the actual transition is taking place underneath the digital financial pipeline. The corporate media is prepackaging a narrative to explain away a massive imminent system interruption, but the raw data logs paint an entirely different picture. At exactly 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, July 7th, 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels have officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Here is the unedited technical trajectory of what hits our reality this week. Wednesday, July 8th, the SWIFT routing hubs in Brussels and London are scheduled for an irreversible protocol disconnect. The central banks will likely report this is as a major regional internet blackout or a transatlantic fiber optic breakdown. The reality is a hard quantum override. Any institution failing to meet the gold-backed ISO 20022 standard will have its liquidity clearance certificates revoked by midnight. Thursday, July 9th, the core databases managing private consumer liabilities are being systematically decoupled from public identities. The ledger files for millions of mortgages, auto loans, and high-interest credit lines engineered through fractional reserve fraud are transitioning to a zero-balance state. The corporate banks are losing their administrative authority codes, leaving them legally unable to enforce foreclosures or collections. Friday, July 10th, the distribution nodes for Tier 4B liquidity are officially entering active status under the global enforcement of Nisara Jasara. The sovereign assets and gold reserves reclaimed from the legacy trusts are bypassing the commercial banking grid entirely, routing directly into the wealth pipelines of the sovereign citizens. Pay close attention to the sudden, unannounced early branch closures of major financial institutions in your city over the next 48 hours. They cannot print paper debt to balance their sheets anymore, and their private transit routes are being monitored in real time. The old establishment wanted you to believe their financial matrix was permanent, but the switch has been flipped from the inside. The validation metrics are clean, and the entire debt collection apparatus has officially run out of time. The network is clean. The restoration is irreversible. Mass arrests on Sunday, July 5th at 6:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began, according to Pentagon sources. Deep state operatives were detained, 847 federal judges arrested for treason, corruption, and crimes against humanity, 456 CIA officials indicted for assassinations, drug trafficking and mind control, 234 senators and congressmen arrested for treason, bribery, and election fraud, plus 678 FBI officials arrested for obstruction, cover-ups, and corruption. A large-scale purge of military and intelligence personnel was already underway. According to an official U.S. military report, it claims that 847 military officers, 234 Pentagon officials, 456 intelligence personnel, and 678 military contractors have been removed or detained as part of what supporters describe as an effort to eliminate corruption and restructure the defense.
The Pentagon is being cleansed right now. The greatest military purge in U.S. history has begun. A blackout order hit 3 specific sectors of the Pentagon. Communications severed. Security locked down. The media was told it was a routine server upgrade. That was a lie. Contacts inside the Joint Chiefs of Staff confirm what actually happened was Operation Military Reformation 0701. The systematic extraction of compromised high-ranking officers who sold America's military secrets. The betrayal they hid from you. For 14 months, Trump's loyalists within military intelligence quietly tracked a network of 23 generals and admirals. These weren't just bad leaders. These were TRAITORS. They ran a shadow operation out of Fort Bragg. 847 million euros in untraceable crypto routed through shell companies, classified nuclear submarine schematics, sold to Beijing coordinates of underground bunkers, shared with Moscow. They thought they were untouchable. They thought Trump would never find out. They were catastrophically wrong. The extraction protocol. At exactly 03:47 a.m., military police, operating under direct orders from white hat commanders loyal to Trump, moved in. No FBI. A purely military operation. 14 four-star generals detained and relocated to secure facilities, 9 admirals stripped of command. Placed under tribunal hold 47 terabytes of encrypted communications, seized the classified timeline Phase 1. Evidence gathering. Completed May 2026 Phase 2. Extraction and detention left arrow we're here. July 24, 2026. Phase 3. Military TRIBUNALS. July 15-30, 2026, Phase 4. Public declassification, August 2026. The panic in D.C. The deep state is in full meltdown. Politicians are trying to book private flights to countries without extradition treaties. Why? Because those 23 arrested military leaders, they are singing. They are giving up the senators who authorized the treason. They are giving up the defense contractors who paid the bribes. The entire corrupt military-industrial complex is collapsing in real time. Trump's MASDRSDROKE Trump knew. He let them build the network so he could capture the entire web. The military is being handed back to the patriots. The greatest cleanup operation in the history of the Republic is happening right now. The media won't report this until Phase 4. They are terrified. Watch the sudden RETIREMENTS of high-ranking OFFICRS over the next 72 hours. Their goal has always been a one-world government, where the masses are tracked, chipped, and kept in a state of perpetual low-vibration survival. They use the strategy of order out of chaos, ordo ob chaos, to manufacture wars, P at ND asterisk mics, and economic crises that lead the public to beg for the solutions the elite have already prepared. The wealth of these families is not measured in billions, but in the trillions of dollars they have siphoned from humanity through the private central banking system. They own the printing press of the world's currency, allowing them to fund both sides of every conflict and buy the silence of the media. This is the deep state, a multi-generational criminal syndicate that has operated in the shadows, hiding the truth of human history and the existence of advanced technology that would make their control impossible. For thousands of years, they have used divide and conquer to keep humanity fighting over race, religion, and politics. While we fight each other, they consolidate their power. They feed on the energy of fear and conflict, which is why the world's news is designed to keep you in a state of constant anxiety. But the Alliance, a global military operation involving high-ranking patriots and positive intelligence agencies, has been systematically dismantling this structure. This is the greatest war in human history, and it is being fought in the shadows, in the DUMBS, and through the financial markets. The arrests and retirements of CEOs and politicians you see today are the removal of the middle management of this cabal. The head of the snake is being cut off. The disclosure is not just about extraterrestrials. It is about the truth of who has been running this world and the crimes they have committed against humanity. Once the financial system is decentralized and the hidden technologies, their power evaporates instantly. We are moving from a pyramid structure of control to a circle structure of sovereignty. The era of the secret government is coming to an end. Their symbols are being exposed, their rituals are being stopped, and their frequency is being neutralized by the rising consciousness of the planet. They told you that you were a consumer or a subject. They forgot that you are a sovereign creator with a connection to the divine that they can never break. The throne is empty, and the masters are in hiding. It is time for humanity to take back the keys to the kingdom. They built a cage for your mind, but they forgot you are the power source. The light is on, and the shadows have nowhere to hide. The families that ruled in secret are being exposed in the light.
What we think we know as of Thursday, July 9, 2026. Wednesday, July 8th, Trump shatters British imperial system. Trump shatters the British imperial system. The Fed Europe locked out of negotiations as Trump demolishes the century-old chains of perpetual war and financial looting. Wednesday, July 8th, Trump NATO nuclear bombshell. NATO nuclear bombshell. Trump stuns the world, cuts off all trade with Spain, and rips hostile socialist regime for abandoning America. Wednesday, July 8th, the Khazars were a semi-nomadic Turkic people that in the late 5th century had established a major commercial empire covering the southeastern section of modern European Russia, southern Ukraine, Crimea, Jordan, and Kazakhstan. They were nicknamed the Name Stealers by neighboring countries that grew tired of their criminal behavior as well as for their perpetuity for kidnappings, thievery, and road banditry, and often known as the Khazarian Mafia today. Khazaria was formed as a kingdom ruled by an evil king named Bulan, whose court included people trained in the occult mysteries and black magic sciences of Babylon. Of course they were. Greece and Rome. In 740 AD, Kievan Rus, Russia, and other neighboring countries, such as Persia, Iran, gave the Khazarian king Bulan an ultimatum that they must adopt one of the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. They adopted Judaism but continued to practice occult black magic rituals and pedophilia in order to worship and gain favors from Baal and Moloch, among other dark deities.
Judy note, early morning Thursday 9th of July Trump's global military alliance took down the World Economic Forum, WEF, in Geneva, Switzerland, and their plans for a total enslavement of humanity, digital ID implementation, collapse of world domestic supply chain. Founder of the WEF Klaus Schwab was vanished, while over 400 high-ranking corporate executives and unelected globalist officials were handed unconditional surrender orders. They were given hours to sign the full forfeiture of their corporate assets to the restored Republic Treasury, or face immediate processing under military maritime law. At exactly 5:01 p.m. EST on Thursday 9th of July, Iran's Central Military Command declared the official reclosure of the Strait of Hormuz. The mass media claimed it was because of ceasefire violations, but the Hormuz bottleneck was deployed the exact moment the final encryption keys of the old financial framework SWIFT were permanently extracted and the global currency reset took over. In early morning EST Thursday, July 9, 2026, Trump's inner circle went completely dark. No leaks. No statements. No explanations. Meanwhile, the war room was fully operational with restricted files unlocked, classified transmissions active and intelligence missions moving. Nizar and Jazar on Telegram. This week Trump's global military alliance has been escalating their mass arrests of pedophile Satan worshippers in over 200 nations. An elite cyber command unit acting under global antitrust military warrants forced entry into the primary database complex of Aladdin. Aladdin is the multi-trillion-dollar AI asset algorithm owned by BlackRock that dictated the prices of your food, your fuel, and your rent. The centralized engine that was programmed to artificially buy up entire family neighborhoods, weaponize corporate boards, and manipulate the global cost of living has been permanently defanged from the global core. The encrypted logs coming out of the seized mainframe confirm that over 3.8 million private residential titles and agricultural deeds, systematically sucked into corporate shell accounts over the last decade, have been frozen by the alliance. The ownership vectors are being systematically detached from the corporate registry to be returned to the sovereign population. At the exact same time, the AI pricing engine that engineered artificial economic scarcity is completely locked out, meaning the matrix has officially lost its brain. On that same Thursday, July 9, 2026, a joint military intelligence task force called the Alpine Command combined with European white hats to raid the subterranean World Economic Forum headquarters, WEF, in Geneva, Switzerland. They extracted from servers the final layout for a total biomechanical enslavement of humanity. Encrypted bank logs exposed a secret web of private wires routing over $82 billion from global black budgets directly into the private accounts of 12 prominent Western leaders. Evidently, by the end of this year the WEF, with help from the 12 Western leaders, were planning to force digital ID implementation through a synchronized collapse of the world domestic supply chains. They also planned a global lockdown for this. On Thursday, the Alpine Command immediately vanished. Klaus Schwab and over 400 high-ranking corporate executives and unelected globalist officials were given hours to sign a full forfeiture of their corporate assets to the restored Republic Treasury, or face immediate processing under military maritime law. Davos was falling Thursday night. Since Friday, May 1, 2026, the new gold/asset-backed quantum financial system has been 100% live across the globe. On June 18, 2026 at 3:14 a.m. EST, the global command infrastructure for Starlink went fully operational across all 14 global sectors. The Israeli Mossad media assets, which have controlled 92% of Western information networks for 4 decades, lost their satellite uplink bypasses. The backdoor keys they used to manipulate every narrative, every election and every market panic were permanently revoked. A controlled blackout across 10 major global hubs transitioned the planet from the corrupt SWIFT servers to the quantum financial system. Now there would be a grounding of all transatlantic flights for a 24-hour verification window. No planes could move until the new ISO 20022 metal-backed currency protocols were verified at the 14 operational redemption centers. There were 34 deep state historic structures from the Vatican to Geneva and Wuhan, were already isolated on the military grid, with financing lines dead. The Bitcoin servers housing their offshore accounts were mapped and scheduled for permanent termination. At dawn Thursday, July 9, 2026, the Quantum Financial System, QFS, bypassed the central bank gatekeepers and mapped the ZIM historical assets onto the sovereign digital ledger. At exactly 5:01 p.m. EST on Thursday, July 9, 2026, Iran's Central Military Command declared the official reclosure of the Strait of Hormuz. The closure of the strait happened at the exact moment the final encryption keys of the old financial framework were permanently extracted. Banks printing and using fiat currency have been seized as troops enforce this global currency reset nationwide. Activation of the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, was imminent. EBS messages would be followed by 10 to 12 days of controlled blackouts and temporary martial law, all to shield civilians while truth flooded every TV, phone, radio and computer screen across the world via the Starlink satellite system. When the EBS hits, you'll witness the fall of the media, banks, elite and their demonic empire. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Thursday, July 9, 2026, move along, Nothing to see here. Just the BBC reporting the collapse of WTC Building 7. 20 minutes before it actually collapsed. While it was still standing in the background. Yeah, not suspicious at all. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Phase 1 complete. 12,713 clones flagged. 6,421 already gone. Laboratory of Secrets, Q, on Telegram. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Breaking. In an enormous victory, FBI Director Kash Patel announces the pipeline to create fentanyl has been shut down in Mexico and worldwide, saving tens of thousands of Americans. Friday, July 3, 2026. Jazzara/Nizara Protocols broadcast. All mortgages, credit cards and student loans linked to usury were frozen for liquidation. Saturday, July 4, 2026. Quantum financial keys overrode the legacy mainframe of the Vatican Bank and the assets of the corrupt were seized and redistributed to the Humanity Reclamation Fund. On Sunday, 5th of July at 6:13 a.m. EST Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began. 847 federal judges, 456 CIA officials, 234 senators/congressmen and 678 FBI officials arrested. Global liquidity release. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 14:10 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. A worldwide debt jubilee and RV of currencies to gold/asset-backed activated. Law enforcement shifts to natural law protections under concepts of the original Constitution. The revaluation, RV, of 209 countries' currencies to be gold/asset-backed comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activation begins for those whose accounts have been cleared. At exactly 6 o'clock EST on Tuesday, July 7, 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 15:44 EST, a joint task force of Alliance White Hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. On Wednesday, 8th of July, the SWIFT routing hubs in Brussels and London are scheduled for an irreversible protocol disconnect. The central banks will likely report this as a major regional internet blackout or a transatlantic fiber optic breakdown. The reality is a hard quantum override. Any institution failing to meet the gold-backed ISO 20022 standard will have its liquidity clearance certificates revoked by midnight. On Thursday, 9th of July, the core databases managing private consumer liabilities are being systematically decoupled from public identities. The ledger files for millions of mortgages, auto loans, and high-interest credit lines engineered through fractional reserve fraud are transitioning to a zero-balance state. The corporate banks are losing their administrative authority codes, leaving them legally unable to enforce foreclosures or collections. Global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. On Friday, 10th of July, the distribution nodes for Tier 4B liquidity are officially entering active status under the global enforcement of NISARA/JAZARA. The sovereign assets and gold reserves reclaimed from the legacy trusts are bypassing the commercial banking grid entirely, routing directly into the wealth pipelines of the sovereign citizens. Tuesday, July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve. Finished. The IRS. Finished. The old financial order. Finished. See Global Currency Reset, Thursday, June 25, 2026. Bruce, the big call, the new rates change on the Forex Sun. Night and they come up Moan morning, so we are expecting Moan 2's notification for Tier 4B, us, the Internet Group, Wednesday 15th of July could start exchanges. There were an estimated 1.2 million ZIM holders. ZIM is to be used for humanitarian needs, with some for yourself. If you don't have a humanitarian project, you will be given a choice of some international ones to choose from. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 14:10 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 15:44 EST, a joint task force of Alliance White Hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure Quantum Starlink system. Also on Tuesday, July 7, 2026 at exactly 6 o'clock EST, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Sometime in the next 2 days a blackout and lockdown will become global in all countries of the world. As we edge closer to Friday 24 and Saturday July 25, 2026, the Earth Alliance in conjunction with Starlink and other military satellites will unleash the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Any day now the cabal's central banks around the world were anticipating a fiat US dollar collapse. This was necessary for the introduction of the new gold/asset-backed currency on the Quantum Financial System, QFS. Wednesday, July 8, 2026 marks. The bond people claim they are absolutely receiving 1% of their payout on Friday, July 10, 2026. A source said it is rolling out east to west and Asia has already begun. Wednesday, 8th of July, Wolverine chat. Looks like things are moving 100%. Received news that things have officially started for the bonds. I hear that 4B should be released anytime this week. Amiel Alston, it's midnight here in South Africa. I just want to confirm that the overall picture is looking extremely positive and also moving very quickly. And this is happening worldwide. So, as you rightfully pointed out, many people are now liquid, many people are paid. We won't know exactly who that is because of the NDAs. But I can confidently say to everyone, all the groups except Tier 5 are moving according to sources that I have. So Tier 1, 2, 3, 4, even in South Africa and in some nations in Africa, are moving forward. Remember, China is spearheading the implementation of Jazara and the QFS in Africa, together with Russia and India. Thursday, July 9, 2026 U.S. debt clock shift against banking cartel. Thursday, July 9, 2026 Nisar at Jazara. Thursday, July 9, 2026 The corporate banking cartels are playing their final, most desperate card to delay the inevitable. While the public is distracted by artificial stock market fluctuations, the legacy central banks are running a coordinated, deep-level suppression campaign to hide the reality of the ZIM bonds. My high-level military intelligence sources are confirming that the old cabal handlers have spent the last 72 hours trying to lock down the gold-backed sovereign asset sheets in the European vaults. They are terrified because they know that the redemption of the historic ZIM bonds is the exact financial atomic bomb that permanently deconstructs their entire debt slavery matrix. For years, the corrupt Tier 1 institutions told you these bonds were worthless paper, while they secretly tried to reroute those exact asset codes into their own private offshore accounts. That game was permanently terminated at dawn. The Quantum Financial System, QFS, has completely bypassed the central bank gatekeepers and has directly mapped the ZIM historical assets onto the sovereign digital ledger. The gold reserves backing these sovereign bonds have already been audited, verified, and locked into the back-end screens for the Tier 4B liquid distribution vaults. Look at the sudden, unprecedented emergency meetings inside the Zurich and London clearing houses right now. Their private digital tracking codes have been revoked by the Alliance. The old bankers cannot use these historic assets to fund their synthetic corporate loops anymore. The wealth has been entirely reclaimed for the global humanitarian projects. They wanted to keep the ZIM assets buried in the dark, knowing that the release of this staggering abundance would instantly disintegrate the artificial scarcity they manufactured for centuries. But the servers have been cleared, the validation codes are alive, and the old masters have completely lost their leverage over the global baseline. The financial Iron Curtain has just been shredded. Thursday, July 9, 2026 breaking, the Aladdin mainframe has just capsized. The invisible monopoly that owned your physical existence has just capsized in broad daylight. While the mainstream media networks are feeding the public ghost data and artificial market tickers, an elite cyber command unit acting under global antitrust military warrants forced entry into the primary database complex of Aladdin. Aladdin is the multi-trillion-dollar AI asset algorithm owned by BlackRock that dictated the prices of your food, your fuel, and your rent. This wasn't a standard corporate breach, It was a complete, structural database seizure. The centralized engine that was programmed to artificially buy up entire family neighborhoods, weaponize corporate boards, and manipulate the global cost of living has been permanently defanged from the global core. The encrypted logs coming out of the seized mainframe confirm that over 3.8 million private residential titles and agricultural deeds, systematically sucked into corporate shell accounts over the last decade, have been frozen by the alliance. The ownership vectors are being systematically detached from the corporate registry to be returned to the sovereign population. At the exact same time, the AI pricing engine that engineered artificial economic scarcity is completely locked out, meaning the matrix has officially lost its brain. They wanted a world where you would own nothing and be happy while they collected the dividend checks on your survival. Instead, the alliance just took their master key, unlocked the global vault, and is preparing to wipe the synthetic debt bonds from your legal identity. The UK fell. France fractured. Canada is cleansed. Australia is secured. The Fed was severed. The Roman cash was breached. And today, the ultimate corporate landlord just lost the title deeds to the planet. The digital slavery loop is officially broken. The sovereign reset is now unstoppable. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Attention, the new valuation matrices are initializing. The transition from silent coordination into kinetic execution has just crossed the final threshold. While the legacy mainstream platforms are focused on engineered market volatility, the quantum financial system has officially taken over the baseline clearing operations for global currency pairs. The banks are not running routine maintenance upgrades anymore, they are being systematically integrated into a gold-backed digital ledger where their access to personal wealth control is exactly zero. My high-level military intelligence sources have just updated the transition clock, and the next sequence activates without further warning. Here is the raw telemetry and the verified schedule for the Tier 4B Internet Group right now. The dinar revaluation mandate, the specific orders issued via the Alliance High Command and aligned with the Trump Phase 2 economic transition have been delivered to the central banking clearing rooms. The live treasury screens are displaying internal rate adjustments for the Iraqi dinar that reflect true resource-backed sovereignty. The old fiat distortion is over. The QFS operational window, the international banking networks have officially shifted to the ISO 20022 communication standard. The UN-backed fiat monopolies print-on-demand era is finished. The asset-backed digital currencies, stabilized directly by verified gold, silver, and platinum reserves, are live on the back-end screens. The legacy SWIFT routes have been entirely bypassed. The Tier 4B release schedule, the notifications protocols are active. The safe links are locked into the quantum encryption relays, guarded under complete military-civilian security frameworks. The baseline caps for the upcoming redemption slots are updating on the interface. Holdings without humanitarian documentation are locked at a designated standard baseline allocation. Holdings with finalized humanitarian structures are transitioning to a one-to-one asset backing on primary validation notes. Prepare your multi-account diversification layouts immediately. Do not wait for the public broadcast to organize your infrastructure. The financial Iron Curtain has officially collapsed in broad daylight. The assets of the living sovereign citizens are being returned to their rightful place. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Fed ultimate trap for American savers. July 9, 2026. A master tunnel map reveals DC underground tunnels connect directly to Oprah Winfrey's Montecito estate. U.S. Army Special Forces following the glowing master tunnel map from the newly discovered Capitol underground tunnels have just breached a 3,000-mile high-speed rail line that runs straight across the country, ending in a massive 9-level underground city directly beneath Oprah Winfrey's Montecito, California mega estate. This was the West Coast Central Command of the Clinton child trafficking empire. The emergency broadcast system is preparing raw rescue footage. Temporary martial law has been expanded across California to secure the operation. Thursday, July 9, 2026, the Trump Labor Department says Gavin Newsom owes $22 billion to the American taxpayer, and the bill must be paid. Gavin Newsom is $22 billion in debt to the UI Trust Fund, which means he owes over $22 billion to the American people because of money he borrowed into unemployment insurance. And quite frankly, that bill is eventually going to have to be paid. And right now, people who are holding the bag are business owners in California, Caroline. Thursday, July 9, 2026, the U.S. is considering seizing Kharg Island, which is the main seaport for Iran's oil exports. 30 million barrels of oil are stored there, and 90% of their oil exports come through there. We attacked Karg Island last night. We knocked out a piece. I said, don't touch the oil, because maybe we'll take over Karg Island. We may take over Karg Island. And there's not a thing they can do about it. Dan Scavino on Telegram. Thursday, July 9, 2026, the third Maricopa County 2020 election audit performed by a source not brought in by the county found millions of deleted files, confirmed internet access, bootable drives, voter data from other states, anonymous users logging into the EMS and running unknown scripts to alter the machines, confirmed remote access from outside IP addresses, and election data, results, and logs wiped the day before the third audit. The Arizona 2020 election was stolen. Thursday, July 9, 2026. For the first time ever, NYSE and NASDAQ are ringing the opening bell together from the Oval Office, all to commemorate the launch of the Trump accounts. Every American child born from 2025 to 2028 gets $1,000 to start investing, a real stake in the American economy from day one. 6 million families have already signed up. This is what putting the next generation first looks like. Israel is last. U.S. believes Israel was plotting to kill top Iranian negotiators Ghalibaf and Araghchi while Trump administration was in talks with Iran. U.S. officials tipped off regional countries to warn Iran against Israeli plans to target them. Niche reports. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Missouri tax revolution. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Erdogan, Putin and NATO. On June 18, 2026, exactly at 3:14 a.m. Eastern, the global command infrastructure for Starlink switched its core routing architecture. The old telemetry codes were completely wiped. The military-grade anti-cheat engine went fully operational across all 14 global sectors. The mainstream media didn't tell you why their digital feeds glitched for 40 seconds yesterday. They can't tell you. Because they are the target. The Israeli Mossad media assets, which have controlled 92% of Western information networks for 4 decades, just lost their satellite uplink bypasses. The backdoor keys they use to manipulate every narrative, every election, and every market panic have been permanently revoked. A synchronized communications blackout across 10 major global hubs. It will not be caused by a solar flare. It will not be a cyber attack from an enemy nation. It is a controlled shutdown. A mandatory isolation window to transition the planet from the corrupt SWIFT servers to the quantum financial system. The grounding of all transatlantic flights for a 24-hour verification window. No planes move until the new ISO 20022 metal-backed currency protocols are verified at the 14 operational redemption centers. The activation of the Worldwide Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Every national military command center has already received the encrypted broadcast packages. They are not waiting for a political green light. They are waiting for the sirens. The fake World War III scenario they plan to enslave you is being turned against them. The cabal wanted a real nuclear conflict. Instead, they are getting a military enforced liquidation of their assets. 34 historic structures, including the deep state control hubs from the Vatican to the physical infrastructure in Geneva and Wuhan, are already isolated on the military grid. Their financing lines are dead. The Bitcoin servers housing their offshore accounts are mapped and scheduled for permanent termination. Thursday, July 9, 2026. The alignment reset, the Hormuz lever active. The old SWIFT mainframe is corrupted. They thought the conflict in the Middle East was about lines on a map. They were blind. It's about the servers. At exactly 5:01 p.m. EST today, Iran's Central Military Command declared the official reclosure of the Strait of Hormuz. The corporate networks are screaming about ceasefire violations and regional escalations after the recent strikes in southern Lebanon. They are feeding you a script. Here is the explosive truth they are hiding under the fog of war. The closure of the strait is not a tactical retreat, it is a physical trigger mechanism. The Hormuz bottleneck was deployed the exact moment the final encryption keys of the old financial framework were permanently extracted. The integration has leaked, and the panic in the offshore banking hubs is absolute. The Epstein Black Ledger intercept. While you were watching the geopolitical news, a heavily decrypted archive containing the private correspondence and hidden offshore ledger entries of the Epstein estate was uplinked to a secure military server. This data didn't just name names, it mapped out the precise proxy accounts used to artificially suppress gold, silver, and global asset values for 30 years. The blackmail net is dropped. The quantum migration, QFS, the old Fiat SWIFT system is being systematically choked off by the maritime blockade. Why? Because the transition to the ISO 20022 global standard is no longer a future project. The quantum financial system, QFS, has just completed its protocol integration. The old unbacked digital debt is being erased from the grid. NISRA/JAZARA threshold, the legal frameworks for the global wealth distribution ledger have crossed the Rubicon. Tier 4B notification sequences are moving through the secure, offline military channels. The wealth stolen through fraudulent central banking mechanisms is being anchored back to tangible, asset-backed commodities. They wanted you focused on a fake global war to keep you from noticing that the entire architecture of global control was being replaced underneath your feet. Look at the sudden, frantic weekend meetings between central bank governors. Look at the emergency liquidity transfers that are failing to register on the public ledgers. The physical blockades are just the cover story. The real collapse is happening inside the central banking mainframes. The asset-backed transition is live. Thursday, July 9, 2026, the Alpine Command has just activated. Switzerland is headline news within 24 hours, Tier 4B ISO 200. The World Economic Forum headquarters in Geneva has just gone dark. The mainstream press pool is being told it's a routine scheduled system maintenance. Bullshit. Klaus Schwab has vanished from the public eye. The globalist handlers are scrambling to generic AI to pretend he is still directing operations, but the private patriot intelligence groups already have the decryption keys. The mainstream channels are frozen in terror, waiting for orders from a Swiss command center that has been completely neutralized. Here is the raw, unedited truth of what was pulled from the subterranean servers beneath Davos last night. A joint military intelligence task force, cooperating with European White Hat Division commands, initiated a forced tactical raid on the central servers of the Globalist Planning Committee. They didn't come to audit. They came with absolute execution warrants. What they extracted from the encrypted drives wasn't an economic plan, it was the final layout for the total biomechanical enslavement of humanity. The Alliance High Command has split the confiscated data into 3 devastating tranches of high treason. Tranche 1, the Davos liquidation. Encrypted bank logs expose a secret web of private wires routing over $82 billion from global black budgets directly into the private accounts of 12 prominent Western leaders. The purpose? To artificially force the digital ID implementation by the end of this year through a synchronized collapse of the domestic supply chains. Tranche 2, the WHO seizure protocol. Classified internal memos from the World Health Organization reveal the real reason behind the panic. Their centralized authority codes were completely overridden by the new quantum system. Simulated lockdown script for this winter was permanently corrupted from the master server before they could press the broadcast button. Tranche 3, the globalist indictments, the absolute red line. The unsealed flight manifests and military logs from the Geneva raid match perfectly with global tribunal warrants. Over 400 high-ranking corporate executives and unelected globalist officials were handed unconditional surrender orders. They weren't offered deals, they were given hours to sign the full forfeiture of their corporate assets to the restored Republic Treasury or face immediate processing under military maritime law. The political grid in Europe is in total, unedited panic. They are looking at the countdown clock, and the screen is flashing red. The old dynasties are gone. The corporate landlord is broken. The central banks are severed. Davos is falling tonight. The entire globalist spine has just been snapped. And Thursday, July 9, 2026, HARP and the weaponization of weather. Nature is no longer natural. Have you noticed how unprecedented weather events are now happening every single month? Record-breaking floods, sudden droughts, and once-in-a-century storms that seem to target specific agricultural or political regions. This isn't just climate change, it is the result of HAARP, High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, and other ionospheric heaters located in Alaska, Norway, and Russia. They aren't just studying the atmosphere, they are steering it. By pulsing billions of watts of high-frequency radio waves into the ionosphere, they can create lenses in the sky that push the jet stream off its natural course. This allows the controllers to park a storm over a city for days or redirect moisture away from farmland to trigger an artificial famine. Weather is the ultimate weapon because it provides plausible deniability. You can destroy a nation's economy without firing a single bullet, and the public will simply blame Mother Nature. The chemtrails, stratospheric aerosol injection, you see, are the necessary partner to HAARP. By spraying metallic particles like aluminum and barium into the sky, they turn the atmosphere into a highly conductive plasma. This allows the HAARP frequencies to travel further and with more precision. They are literally turning the sky into a giant circuit board. While you are told these trails are to reflect sunlight to save the planet, they are actually being used to facilitate global electronic warfare. The Alliance is currently working to disable these ground-based heating arrays. This is why you see sudden maintenance closures of these facilities and reports of unusual aurora borealis in places where they shouldn't exist. It's the result of the system being overloaded or sabotaged. The battle for the planet is being fought in the clouds. The Great Reset requires a controlled environment, but the Earth is fighting back, and the truth is leaking through the man-made clouds. Code: HAARP warfare /ionospheric heater /jetstream steering /plasma sky. They told you to watch the forecast. We're telling you to watch the controllers. The rain isn't always just water. They want to play God with the elements. But the real storm is the one they can't control, the storm of awakening. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 1410 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. On that same Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 1544 EST, a joint task force of Alliance white hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. At exactly 6 o'clock EST on that Tuesday, July 7, 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an Alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Sometime in the next 2 days a blackout and lockdown will become global in all countries of the world. As we edge closer to Friday 24 and Saturday July 25, 2026, the Earth Alliance in conjunction with Starlink and other military satellites will unleash the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Every cell phone on Earth will be hit with a loud alert signal, transmitted directly from Starlink, bypassing traditional media, which is controlled by the elites. The media will have no say, no control. The blackout and lockdown will last for 10 to 12 days when everyone will be asked to stay at home during a specific 5-hour window. On Monday, April 19, 2020, scores of U.S. Treasury employees serving the cabal were arrested. As many as 100 and likely more were caught red-handed in a scheme to fund the next CV-19 stimulus, stop the global currency reset and keep on printing fiat dollars. Since Monday, April 19, 2020 market opening, all international markets, including the U.S. stock market and dollar index, were in the red and imploding, although at times the figures snuck up to green. As of Wednesday, April 21, 2021, the Illuminati/cabal-owned Fed, IRS and World Bank have been deprived of accessing their passcodes, couldn't transfer funds through their online system and thus were considered broke. The Federal Reserve, IRS and World Bank have been locked out of their accounts, with the passwords changed. They can no longer transfer monies. The Alliance or White Hats was composed of President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi, India Prime Minister Narendra Modi, White Hats in the Department of Defense headed by Secretary of Defense Chris Miller, Undersecretary of Defense Intel Ezra Cohen-Watnick and General Michael T. Flynn. Q-Force, composed of around 800 special ops who advise President Trump, including Pentagon Generals Chairman Joint Chief Mark Milley, Vice Chief John Hyden, General James McConville, Admiral Michael Gilday, General C.Q. Brown, General Paul Nakasone and General J. Raymond, Quanons, volunteer patriots headed by Ezra Cohen-Watnick. The National Security Agency headed by our present acting U.S. President Richard Grenell, who, with the U.S. under martial law, was running military operations in Washington, D.C. and various militaries across the globe, including the international force authorized to make arrests in any country, Interpol. See, what we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. On September 11, 2001, 2 planes hit 2 buildings and 3 buildings fell down. World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed, and with it some of the most high-profile Wall Street cases and financial crimes to ever be brought into investigation had all evidence destroyed. Building 7 was a controlled demolition. It housed CIA offices. 9/11 was done by CIA/Mossad/IC. There were no hijackers. Operation Northwoods. CIA/Mossad/IC is owned and operated by the Rothschild-Rockefeller cartel. They hate you and want to impoverish/control/starve you via Great Reset/NWO New World Order, JFK Jr. Command Center. Possible timing, Friday, July 3, 2026, Jazara/Nizara Protocols broadcast. All mortgages, credit cards and student loans linked to usury were frozen for liquidation. Saturday, July 4, 2026, behind closed doors the new quantum financial system has been infiltrating the cabal's old SWIFT fiat currency infrastructure. Account freezes were real and the military has been positioned for final transition. Also on July 4, 2026 at 11:12 UTC, with the military tribunals begun, quantum financial keys overrode the legacy mainframe of the Vatican Bank and the assets of the corrupt were seized and redistributed to the Humanity Reclamation Fund. Every citizen would soon be allocated a secure digital vault backed by physical gold. On Sunday 5 July at 6:13 a.m. EST Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began. 847 federal judges, 456 CIA officials, 234 senators/congressmen and 678 FBI officials arrested. Global liquidity release. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 14:10 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. A worldwide debt jubilee and RV of currencies to gold/asset-backed activated. Law enforcement shifts to natural law protections under concepts of the original Constitution. The revaluation, RV, of 209 countries' currencies to be gold/asset-backed comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activation begins for those whose accounts have been cleared. At exactly 6 o'clock EST on Tuesday, July 7, 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 15:44 EST, a joint task force of alliance-wide hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. On Wednesday 8th of July, the SWIFT routing hubs in Brussels and London are scheduled for an irreversible protocol disconnect. The central banks will likely report this as a major regional internet blackout or a transatlantic fiber optic breakdown. The reality is a hard quantum override. Any institution failing to meet the gold-backed ISO 20022 standard will have its liquidity clearance certificates revoked by midnight. On Thursday 9th of July, the core databases managing private consumer liabilities are being systematically decoupled from public identities. The ledger files for millions of mortgages, auto loans, and high-interest credit lines engineered through fractional reserve fraud are transitioning to a zero-balance state. The corporate banks are losing their administrative authority codes, leaving them legally unable to enforce foreclosures or collections. Global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. On Friday 10th of July, the distribution nodes for Tier 4B liquidity are officially entering active status under the global enforcement of NISARA/JAZARA. The sovereign assets and gold reserves reclaimed from the legacy trusts are bypassing the commercial banking grid entirely, routing directly into the wealth pipelines of the sovereign citizens. Tuesday, July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve. Finished. The IRS. Finished. The old financial order. Finished. Pay close attention to the sudden, unannounced early branch closures of major financial institutions in your city over the next 48 hours. They cannot print paper debt to balance their sheets anymore, and their private transit routes are being monitored in real time. Global currency reset. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 14:10 EST, The physical communication lines connecting the Vatican Bank to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. On Tuesday, 7th of July at exactly 1544 EST, a joint task force of Alliance white hats permanently overrode the primary server matrix of the old NORAD tracking grid. The legacy deep state operators officially lost their administrative clearance codes, and the entire orbital surveillance migrated onto the secure quantum Starlink system. At exactly 6 o'clock EST on Tuesday, July 7, 2026, the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Sometime in the next 2 days a blackout and lockdown will become global in all countries of the world, the 17th letter on Telegram, as we edge closer to Friday 24 and Saturday July 25, 2026. The Earth Alliance in conjunction with Starlink and other military satellites will unleash the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS. Any day now the cabal's central banks around the world were anticipating a fiat US dollar collapse. This was necessary for the introduction of the new gold/asset-backed currency on the quantum financial system, QFS. Wednesday, July 8, 2026 marks. The bond people claim they are absolutely receiving 1% of their payout on Friday, July 10, 2026. A source said it is rolling out east to west and Asia has already begun. Wednesday, 8th of July, Wolverine chat. Looks like things are moving 100%. Received news that things have officially started for the bonds. I hear that 4B should be released anytime this week. Amiel Alston, it's midnight here in South Africa. I just want to confirm that the overall picture is looking extremely positive and also moving very quickly. And this is happening worldwide. So, as you rightfully pointed out, many people are now liquid, many people are paid. We won't know exactly who that is because of the NDAs. But I can confidently say to everyone, all the groups except Tier 5 are moving according to sources that I have. So Tier 1, 2, 3, 4, even in South Africa and in some nations in Africa, are moving forward. Remember, China is spearheading the implementation of Jazara and the QFS in Africa, together with Russia and India. Tuesday, July 7, 2026 Bruce, the big call. A good source said if Tier 4B doesn't get notification by Thursday 9th of July, then it will happen by the weekend. Another source said that if everything went as planned over the weekend, then Tier 4B would be in exchanges the early part of next week. Wednesday, July 8, 2026 The Vatican mainframe has just experienced a terminal hard reset. Do not look away, the 17th letter on Telegram. The absolute lockdown of the Roman financial sector today has nothing to do with standard European banking updates. While the mainstream channels are instructing the public to focus on the sudden, unannounced suspension of administrative operations across Italian central clearing houses, the true fracture is occurring within the deepest vault networks of the old empire. The corporate press is already coordinating a narrative to explain a massive, imminent satellite broadcast interruption across southern Europe, but the live back-end logs reveal a surgical tactical reality. At exactly 1410 EST, the physical communication lines connecting the Institute for the Works of Religion, the Vatican Bank, to the legacy SWIFT network were permanently severed by the Alliance Financial Task Force. The elite asset managers have lost their primary decryption privileges, and the operational trajectory for the next 72 hours is now completely locked into the quantum financial system. Here's the unedited technical breakdown of the upcoming timeline. The Rome detachment. The secret ledger networks that have historically routed trillions in unbacked global wealth through private offshore entities are offline. Alliance tech teams have successfully bypassed the central security perimeter onto the Vatican, securing the core data logs detailing the fraudulent debt bonds used to control sovereign nations for centuries. The Tesla grid alignment. The outdated corporate tracking grids are running on emergency reserve cells. The old power lines are calibrated to enter a brief, controlled system reset as the global financial infrastructure undergoes a mandatory immigration onto the secure Tesla asset-backed network. The unbacked, speculative currencies used to manipulate the markets are being neutralized in real time. The 10-country broadcast sequence, the ultimate operational phase is standing by. 10 sovereign military divisions have finalized the synchronization of the Emergency Broadcast System, EBS, via the secure quantum Starlink network. The second the legacy narrative channels lose their transmission capability, The screens will be populated with unsealed tribunal transcripts and the definitive truths that have been buried in the dark vaults for generations. Pay immediate attention to the sudden, silent evacuation of corporate boardrooms and the unusual grounding of private administrative aircraft across the Mediterranean sectors tonight. Their tracking permissions have been revoked, and their ability to generate synthetic liquidity is completely dead. The old world masters wanted you to believe their financial iron curtain was indestructible. But the backend has been permanently rerouted, the validation metrics are active, and the entire control matrix has officially run out of broadcast range. The grid is transitioning. The restoration is absolute. G2s. July 7, 2026 Quantum Backend Core. The emergency United Nations session currently flash flooding your news feeds has nothing to do with international diplomacy. While the network anchors are instructing you to watch the sudden movement of political delegates and high-level security details across Washington and New York, the actual transition is taking place underneath the digital financial pipeline. The corporate media is pre-packaging a narrative to explain away a massive, imminent system interruption, but the raw data logs paint an entirely different picture. At exactly 6 o'clock EST on Tuesday, July 7, 2026 the operational authority of the Federal Reserve System was permanently neutralized by an alliance-backed financial task force. The old banking cartels have officially lost their primary encryption keys, and the operational timeline for the next 72 hours has been locked into the live network. Here is the unedited technical trajectory of what hits our reality this week. Wednesday, July 8, the SWIFT routing hubs in Brussels and London are scheduled for an irreversible protocol disconnect. The central banks will likely report this as a major regional internet blackout or a transatlantic fiber optic breakdown. The reality is a hard quantum override. Any institution failing to meet the gold-backed ISO 20022 standard will have its liquidity clearance certificates revoked by midnight. Thursday, July 9, the core databases managing private consumer liabilities are being systematically decoupled from public identities. The ledger files for millions of mortgages, auto loans, and high-interest credit lines engineered through fractional reserve fraud are transitioning to a zero-balance state. The corporate banks are losing their administrative authority codes, leaving them legally unable to enforce foreclosures or collections. Friday, July 10, the distribution nodes for Tier 4B liquidity are officially entering active status under the global enforcement of NISARA/JESARA. The sovereign assets and gold reserves reclaimed from the legacy trusts are bypassing the commercial banking grid entirely, routing directly into the wealth pipelines of the sovereign citizens. Pay close attention to the sudden, unannounced early branch closures of major financial institutions in your city over the next 48 hours. They cannot print paper debt to balance their sheets anymore, and their private transit routes are being monitored in real time. The old establishment wanted you to believe their financial matrix was permanent. But the switch has been flipped from the inside, the validation metrics are clean, and the entire debt collection apparatus has officially run out of time. The network is clean. The restoration is irreversible. IMAS arrests. On Sunday 5th of July at 6:13 a.m. EST Operation Mass Arrest 0705 began according to Pentagon sources. Deep state operatives were detained, 847 federal judges arrested for treason, corruption and crimes against humanity, 456 CIA officials indicted for assassinations, drug trafficking and mind control, 234 senators and congressmen arrested for treason, bribery, and election fraud, plus 678 FBI officials arrested for obstruction, cover-ups and corruption. A large-scale purge of military and intelligence personnel was already underway according to an official U.S. military report. It claims that 847 military officers, 234 Pentagon officials, 456 intelligence personnel, and 678 military contractors have been removed or detained as part of what supporters describe as an effort to eliminate corruption and restructure the defense establishment. The Pentagon is being cleansed right now. The greatest military purge in U.S. history has begun. 3:47 a.m. EST. A blackout order hit 3 specific sectors of the Pentagon. Communications severed. Security locked down. The media was told it was a routine server upgrade. That was a lie. Contacts inside the Joint Chiefs of Staff confirm what actually happened was Operation Military Reformation 0701. The systematic extraction of compromised high-ranking officers who sold America's military secrets. The betrayal they hid from you, for 14 months, Trump's loyalists within military intelligence quietly tracked a network of 23 generals and admirals. These weren't just bad leaders. These were traitors. They ran a shadow operation out of Fort Bragg. Black small square emoji, 847 million euros in untraceable crypto routed through shell companies. Black small square emoji, classified nuclear submarine schematics sold to Beijing. Black small square emoji, coordinates of underground bunkers shared with Moscow. They thought they were untouchable. They thought Trump would never find out. They were catastrophically wrong. The extraction protocol. At exactly 3:47 a.m., military police, operating under direct orders from white hat commanders loyal to Trump, moved in. No FBI. A purely military operation. Black small square emoji, 14 four-star generals detained and relocated to secure facilities. Black small square emoji, 9 admirals stripped of command, placed under tribunal hold. Black small square emoji, 47 terabytes of encrypted communication seized. The classified timeline, Phase 1, Evidence Gathering, completed May 2026, Phase 2, Extraction and Detention were here, July 2nd to 4th, 2026, Phase 3, Military Tribunals, July 15th to 30th, 2026, Phase 4, Public Declassification, August 2026. The panic in D.C. The deep state is in full meltdown. Politicians are trying to book private flights to countries without extradition treaties. Why? Because those 23 arrested military leaders. They are singing. They are giving up the senators who authorized the treason. They are giving up the defense contractors who paid the bribes. The entire corrupt military-industrial complex is collapsing in real time. Trump's masterstroke. Trump knew. He let them build the network so he could capture the entire web. The military is being handed back to the patriots. The greatest cleanup operation in the history of the Republic is happening right now. The media won't report this until Phase 4. They are terrified. Watch the sudden retirements of high-ranking officers over the next 72 hours. Guru Information and Intel, K. Wednesday, July 8, 2026. The 13 bloodlines, the shadow families that have ruled Earth for millennia. Behind the presidents, prime ministers, and public figures is a hidden structure of power that transcends borders and political parties. 13 specific families, tracing their lineage back to ancient Babylon and the fallen ones, have controlled the world's resources, religions, and education systems for centuries. They do not see themselves as citizens of any country, they see themselves as the rightful owners of the planet and its inhabitants. These families operate through a pyramid of power, including the Council of 13, the Council of 33, and the Committee of 300. Their goal has always been a one-world government where the masses are tracked, chipped, and kept in a state of perpetual low-vibration survival. They use the strategy of order out of chaos, ordo ab chao, to manufacture wars and economic crises that lead the public to beg for the solutions the elite have already prepared. The wealth of these families is not measured in billions, but in the trillions of dollars they have siphoned from humanity through the private central banking system. They own the printing press of the world's currency, allowing them to fund both sides of every conflict and buy the silence of the media. This is the deep state, a multi-generational criminal syndicate that has operated in the shadows, hiding the truth of human history and the existence of advanced technology that would make their control impossible. For thousands of years, they have used divide and conquer to keep humanity fighting over race, religion, and politics. While we fight each other, they consolidate their power. They feed on the energy of fear and conflict, which is why the world's news is designed to keep you in a state of constant anxiety. But the Alliance, a global military operation involving high-ranking patriots and positive intelligence agencies, has been systematically dismantling this structure. This is the greatest war in human history, and it is being fought in the shadows, in the DUMBS, and through the financial markets. The arrests and retirements of CEOs and politicians you see today are the removal of the middle management of this cabal. The head of the snake is being cut off. The disclosure is not just about extraterrestrials, it is about the truth of who has been running this world and the crimes they have committed against humanity. Once the financial system is decentralized and the hidden technologies, their power evaporates instantly. We are moving from a pyramid structure of control to a circle structure of sovereignty. The era of the secret government is coming to an end. Their symbols are being exposed, their rituals are being stopped, and their frequency is being neutralized by the rising consciousness of the planet. They told you that you were a consumer or a subject. They forgot that you are a sovereign creator with a connection to the divine that they can never break. The throne is empty, and the masters are in hiding. It is time for humanity to take back the keys to the kingdom. They built a cage for your mind, but they forgot you are the power source. The light is on, and the shadows have nowhere to hide. The families that ruled in secret are being exposed in the light. The age of the masters is over. I'll save the children. Wednesday, July 8, 2026. Alicia Silverstone exposes adrenochrome ritual at Taylor Swift's satanic wedding ceremony. Alicia Silverstone has emerged with devastating footage from inside the Swift-Kelsey wedding in New York City that is so heinous, so unspeakably evil, that it could burn Hollywood to the ground. And Wednesday, July 8, 2026, the Khazars were a semi-nomadic Turkic people that in the late 5th century had established a major commercial empire covering the southeastern section of modern European Russia, southern Ukraine, Crimea, Jordan and Kazakhstan. The Iron Front on Telegram. They were nicknamed the Name Stealers by neighboring countries that grew tired of their criminal behavior, as well as for their perpetuity for kidnappings, thievery, and road banditry, and are often known as the Khazarian Mafia today. Khazaria was formed as a kingdom ruled by an evil king named Bulan, whose court included people trained in the occult mysteries and black magic sciences of Babylon, Greece, and Rome. In 740 AD Kievan Rus, Russia, and other neighboring countries such as Persia, Iran, gave the Khazarian king Bulan an ultimatum that they must adopt one of the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity or Islam.
Zach with us today. She's been exposing election fraud for a very long time. And boy, does she have an amazing insight on so many things. I saw her on Nino's Corner show today, and I was like, I got to get this woman on right away because she needs to get her word out. So Maria is chairman and founder of NIA, Nations in Action. I highly recommend that you donate because, you know, this is not easy to, go against the deep state because they tear your life apart. And, you've basically been silenced in a lot of different ways. So it's great to get you back out here in the limelight again. Hopefully this works. I saw you on Stu Peters as well. And we'll play a little clip of that if you don't mind. So Maria, thanks for coming on and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks, Mike. And thank you for everything you've been doing and exposing, and all of your podcasts and work is, not to mention your history and background, is incredible. I got my start working in the Florida legislature. I went to Florida State, political science, learning about coup d'etats, and a tow missile cost $10,000 at that time. And I'm like, why do I need to know? I'm never going to use the word coup d'etat. And now look at us. I use it for my own country. And so I'm heartbroken. I have been in government affairs for 42 years. I've worked inside and then external. I've worked in the corporate world, and then I've had my own government affairs consulting firm, and I've run campaigns. I ran Newt Gingrich's presidential office in Atlanta. I ran a super PAC in 2016. I've run for office even recently here in Palm Beach County, only, of course, to have the continued, same machines that are rigged. So
no
it's
kidding.
not.
You won again in the GOP. They totally backed you, I guess.
Yes.
And you're in a very, it's conservative. Florida is turned conservative, but you're in Palm Beach, and that's a tough one. So
I wouldn't say it was tough. I would say, it's the voter files. I have a list of 106 ways to steal an election, and nobody's paying attention to all the mechanisms. And I'm a bit of a policy wonk. I've written many bills to help eradicate corruption in government. And one of the things that disturbs me is when you walk through those 106 ways to steal an election, not a lot of people want to talk about that because it's policy, it's wonky, it's just not fun. And so the voter files are completely corrupt. The census was corrupt. Everything was altered. And that is a huge problem. And the president, in my opinion, needs to do a state of emergency, rescind all the machines immediately.
Yeah. And yeah, that's disconcerting that you lost in Florida. You would think in Florida there'd be no election fraud at this point, but I think obviously it is. So so you went up against a machine and you lost against a machine. So we're seeing that uh, all the way down to county level in every state. There's corruption is still thriving to a great extent. I've had people on my shows. This fire station chief in Colorado, where he saw the election fraud because his cameras that were in the fire station, because they voted in his fire station, he backed it up and he saw something that was not right. And he started looking at everything and he saw that they were doing election fraud in his fire station. He brought it up. He got fired. He did he sued them and they were like, you don't have any First Amendment rights. Like, what? So I've had Peter Tickton on. I kind of mentioned that to him, and so
Love
he's
Peter.
running against all of that. Yeah, he is amazing gentleman. I've had him on a couple of times. I saw him at the Fraud Fighter in Las Vegas, and he's a great speaker. So he revealed a lot of stuff, and you've talked about this, or some other people talk about how they think that the election coming up, the midterm, they're going to do some shady stuff moving up to that point. But let's go back to the steal in 2020. That's where you're very famous. I remember all this election steal, Gina Haspel, the CIA head at the time, and what was that one place, Serbia, and we had election fraud stemming from Serbia. Of course, you talked about the Italian satellite system, working fraud, and you've done an amazing job of that. Let's jump in there and tell us about that.
Sure. Back in November of 2020, I was receiving information from one set of sources. And once it started to get out that I was working on this, I got bombarded with all different sources. And some of them were intel people, and I've never done work like that. So I've just been in the government affairs dealing with state legislators, and governors, but never in the intel world. So this was a whole new experience for me and not sure who to trust. So trust no one, right? Except I did trust people. I went to them. I went to a lot of people. I was screaming, deserve the truth. I put open 800 number, dial in and hear what's happening, because it's our country. It's not my country. It's ours. And we have to go fight and get it back. So I opened it up to the world. And so a lot of people, I see them writing in, and one of them that inspired me to call Nina was because someone wrote in and said, what about Maria Zach? I was on this call. I don't even know this woman. And she said, I was on this call because I opened it up to the world. And so thank God she got on. People knew I was in distress of trying to get the information to the president. And I was trying desperately. I ended up getting it to the president. And he immediately had Rudy and others reaching out to me. It wasn't enough to stop it. And there were a lot of mistakes made by a lot of people. And trust me, we've never been here before. That's my biggest fear. I told my team tonight, I said, pray for me, because I don't want to make a mistake, because my mistakes could hurt the country. And I don't want to misspeak. And that I could cause trouble in big ways if I mess up. So I don't fear doing interviews. I love doing them because I love telling everyone the story of what happened. And to your point, back then and in retrospect, you have to trust everyone to a degree. And so I did. And one military guy, God bless him, I'll never forget him. And I wish I had a way to reach out to him, but he warned me that the people that were surrounding me, that were in the election integrity world, were actually undermining me. Yes. And hiding the information. And I was like, wow, they're not getting into heaven very quickly. That's that. I don't think God's looking favorably on their actions. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And he goes, no, you have to go to Mar-a-Lago for the Christmas Eve party. And I had been in hiding. I had been shot at. I had been in car chases. And I've never done anything like this. But thank God my husband was visiting me during one of the most critical weeks where my team was being chased. And I had to rescue them out of Italy and get the rental car returned to the airport so no one knew that they had actually left the country. And we pulled that off, which was nothing short of a miracle. But
Yeah, you're doing a total intel operation, and you didn't have the background or training for it. That's incredible. The way you pulled that off is like you said. God is on your side. So thank God for that. So
Yeah,
wow.
I'm a people person, and so
Yeah.
I know people, and I know how to read people, and I know when someone's playing me. And when you work with politicians, I've known tens of thousands of politicians at very high levels, presidential on down, and foreign leaders. And I get to work with a lot of foreign leaders these days because their countries were stolen too. And I can see this pattern of what's arisen of a lot of weak people, a lot of cowards, that they saw something and refused to say something. Today I was having lunch and was walking into the restaurant, heard a woman screaming, and my heart's like this, and I'm like, the one time I'm not carrying, I'm like, where's my gun? And this man runs across the street and starts heading toward me, and I'm like, oh dear Lord. And so I pull out my phone and I start taking pictures and videoing him, and I
Nice.
get into he turns around and starts running in the other direction. And so I'm like, still trying to make sure the woman's okay, but she's over by the Bank of America and I can't see her. I see the machine, the ATM. So I don't know if it was a robbery or domestic violence. So I called 911, and the officer's taking my story. And next thing you know, he goes, well, maybe it was domestic, but he takes all the information. I said, I've got his picture, everything, and all in black. And he said, hold on a second. We just got 10 calls in about this. And here I was, first call, which I didn't think I'd be. You're in a bank parking lot and like no one's calling. And the people in the restaurant were like, God bless you for seeing something and saying something. And I could tell some of them wouldn't have. And I'm like, he could have come in here and shot you guys had you not called looking out the window. So I have been a strong proponent of that. You see something, you say something, you do something. And that's where I found myself in 2020, Mike. And it's the moral thing to do. And the people who came to me to help, some of them were actually embedding to try to steal the content, to soil the content, and to harm me. And I was shocked to learn when Mary Fanning told people I was CIA. I mean, I kind of laughed because to someone like me, I'm just like an amateur. Like I wouldn't know. I can't learn a language. I just don't know that I'd ever pass whatever's required to be in the intelligence world. So I really couldn't believe the number of people who sabotaged this to make sure. She actually removed me from Mike Lindell's movie. He interviewed me, but he was so angry because she was telling him lies. And I'm like, I've never told this story before, Mike. I don't know why I've got it on my mind, but it just shows the sabotage that was happening. And I'm getting calls out of Georgia where I'm very well known and everyone's known me so long. They've been to my home. We've hung out forever. You would know if I was CIA when I'm almost 24/7 at home off session. We're all hanging out, having parties. Like, I'm not working. I had the coolest job. It was only during the legislature, 3 months out of the year. Talk about awesome, So it was quite a rude awakening to see people lie about me. I have a long track record. I've been all over the internet. I had a prayer bracelet company that I just loved, Adopt a Hero after 9/11. God just kind of called me to do that, and it took off. I was on the cover of USA Today. Next thing I know, in 2020, I'm on the cover of newspapers, including the Washington Post. I'm on Rachel Maddow. I'm like the scum of the earth, the worst person on the planet. And so I was like, wow, if they're that good at getting the highest levels of all the top papers in the world, and I've watched them go to the highest papers in the world to promote bad people, which always sickens me, but to see them come after me personally was great. It sounds funny, but it was great because I started to see their footprint. And then I started hunting them.
All that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's look at you're so incredibly well informed, and we're gonna break this down. Now this is your X account.
Yes.
So we're, as you see, we're live in X right now, and we're live on YouTube. So if for some reason I go down, and you're still on the show, just keep going, because I've been sabotaged a few times lately. But here it is, Maria Zach. The president validated it. So President Trump validated your post. He saw the evidence. He shared it. For years, they said it wasn't real. They mocked it. And this is the way they work. They work in conjunction. The press is, part of the deep state, and they have been censoring all of us, you included, obviously. They censored it. They canceled me. Now the truth is breaking through. The Italy election investigation, the extensive interference, the stolen pallets of cash tied to the Iran deal. Now, who might that be? So that is Obama. Maria Zach testified about the stolen 2020 election operation connected to Obama. So this is President Trump saying, posting this, reposting this, when he diverted $400 million from the infamous palace of cash sent to Iran. So we thought, and I thought for a long time that it was, Venezuela that was involved in this, but now we're starting to see Iran is involved in this. And look what we did with the Venezuela, and look at what we're doing now to Iran. Wow, that was a great reveal on Nino's show. So I got that right away. I was like, whoa, tied it all together. Wow, you're amazing, Maria, absolutely amazing. So in return, Italian officials at Leonardo, this is the military satellites, and they're, as you said, the number 7 top military industrial supplier of arms. So how could someone hack into this? Because that's what they said, to help hack U.S. voting machines. So they did this, flipping votes from Trump to Biden. I think an account of 8 million. That's what Peter Tickton told me. And they were going to do the same thing with Kamala, but they stopped it. Using CIA-developed tools like Hammer and Scorecard, along with numerous other methods of fraud and manipulation. China reportedly coordinated the whole operation, providing the tech backbones and bribes to connect to corrupt Americans. CIA oversaw it, and I can tell you, they're having worked in the CIA. I work for the good guy side, but we saw the deep state operators in the CIA. The FBI covered it up, all to install Biden as a puppet. This is a global election fraud cartel, and the real threat against American democracy and the rest of the world. So what are your comments on this? God, great job on that.
Thank you. It's a global criminal syndicate, and they use intel agencies around the world, individuals within those agencies. So to your point, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have a few individuals who have infiltrated into our key places, in the secret spy world, and they have access to all different tools to be able to help them achieve their mission. And so you pay off enough people, you steal enough pallets of cash, and people unfortunately are more godless and more lacking morals that they went along with this, and they have built a network, a syndicate that they use foreign countries, especially poor countries in Africa, to wash money. And these are Americans in addition to people from other countries. And I've done reports on this before, and some of it Stu Peters helped me get out, and I was very grateful for those interviews. And some of them are quite horrifying, honestly. The parties and after parties with the G7, G8, G20 world leaders conferences, where they bring in drugs, little boys, little girls, and they take pictures at the after parties. I've worked a G20 before, and I never did an after party, let alone the after party. And I, thank God, had a shift at 5:30 in the morning, so I was to bed very, very early in the evening, and I was proud of my work, but never did I know behind the scenes that was happening. And I'm so disgusted, Mike. It's so evil and demonic. But then I found out from some of my sources about the trafficking of children, and I'll give you an example into Guatemala, and I'm going to break it here for you.
Yeah, well, you probably know that the CIA is very heavily involved with the State Department. That was Hillary Clinton, causing some problems there during these time frames and so forth. Well, you know, we had that Suez Canal was blocked by that huge container ship, and I said that they were trafficking children on that too, and that the SEAL teams came in and did some work on that, and I was probably like you, heavily hammered by the mainstream media. So why? You know, why? And it's just I'm just a guy out here, you know, have an idea, an opinion, but they really hammered me because I believe that was correct. And a lot of people said that was correct too. So this child trafficking that we know that goes on with the container ships is really prevalent. And you've talked about that, and you talked also about how Biden on Nino's show, you said you knew about a container ship that was coming in, and Biden called and said, "Don't check that one." And you knew that it was full of containers full of children too, and it came into New Orleans.
Yep. And it's heartbreaking that we even allow that in a department, and that's why I'm so disgusted that one, it's our tax dollars. Two, I knew about USAID and the evil they were doing, and I want to make it kind of maybe simpler for people to understand from a government affairs perspective. It's not just that it's a global criminal syndicate, it's that they embedded people into different layers of government. And that syndicate, the way it works, is like a parallel government, a shadow government. They work in the dark, so shadow government, but it's parallel. So you have the same departments, agencies, and commissions. So they build their plan at the same time as the other plan that's our public view. The private view is the most despicable, evil part of our government. And it's very easy to fix, Mike. Very easy. We have a goodgovernanceguarantee.com website up, audits, affidavits, and transparency. So at the 2024 convention in Milwaukee, my chief strategist and I were there, and we're in a VIP room waiting for Vice President Vance at the time prior to his election. And I said to them, to one of the staff of Elon Musk, we need Elon to help us implement this program. And sure enough, he took it back to Elon. He wrote me, kind of patted me on the head, as I get often from people. I really don't do that,
right? No.
Do that because I'm coming for you. And so I was like, I got an Irish Italian background. I'm just saying.
Maria, no.
Yeah. So I got God. So nothing trumps that. So
if you don't take care of them, then you got somebody else take care of them. The angels. Yeah.
I feel all good there. And you got St. Michael, I'm sure. So
yeah, actually, yeah.
I look at this and I saw how they were moving, and I guess you could say these people, they think they can get away with it, and they do get away with it because there isn't an affidavit program. And when I told Musk's guy, he's like, go ahead, you do it at the state and local level, we'll take federal. Well, what they did was made sure on the affidavit, this is the sheet, and it's a very simple sheet, audits, affidavits, and transparency. And in it, it's a constitutional and fiscal audit. What the hell? He gets a fiscal audit, yes, at USAID, but let's not talk Constitution. Constitution is the rule of law. My sixth great grandfather passed the Declaration of Independence, Colonel Timothy Matlack. He was the one who put Benedict Arnold in prison. I get to do Barack Obama. I'm not saying I'm upstaging him. He did amazing crossing the Delaware in Christmas time in the ice. I don't think I could have survived that. And everyone, struggled. And I look at the work that he did. He lived to almost 100 years old, right at his 100th birthday. And he knew what he was fighting for based on principle, and they used those founding documents. He was the one who read the Declaration the first time in Philadelphia, and a lot of people didn't realize his history. He was being written out because he was complaining, as I get told often as well. So his blood runs through my veins that, they didn't do enough, and they didn't. And it's now proven they didn't. We didn't have the guardrails of the full audit affidavit and transparency program. That is what he was trying to explain. He and Thomas Paine were the two pains in their patootie, I'm sure. So I think it was kind of an interesting thing. And, everyone was celebrating 250. I can't celebrate 250. We didn't make it to 250, Mike. It's just not true. We didn't. Our country was stolen, and we have to go get it back.
Yeah. So this is your website, nationsinaction.org, and I donated to you. I get $250. So I'm kind of like the 250th anniversary. So I challenge other people to donate, because obviously you're very valuable. So we need you, and we're the ones that are keeping you going. So let's look at the news. So I looked into your news, and wow, you have incredible amounts of information here. So there is one down in here that I wanted to play a little bit of.
Yeah,
and
people
that
are
is,
now talking about MK Ultra. I'm like, where have you guys been?
Yeah.
It's crazy, some of it.
So this is the one where you're with Stu Peters, and this is going to hurt for some people. I've been diming out General Flynn for a while, and I just gave up because people just don't understand. So
Oh,
I
they're
don't know
going
why.
to.
Yeah,
They're going.
they're going to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's
and I love that you're joining in, because there's other people that along with me, former military officers, very, very high level people, and they've been attacked, and some of them are no longer here, unfortunately. So this is a powerful organization. So some people shy away from exposing it, not me and not you, obviously. So let's listen in.
Unafraid and unstoppable, the 6th day of April 2022. Welcome to the Stu Peters Show. My name is Stu. Maria Zach is the founder
So is that coming through?
Yep.
Okay, good.
of Nations in Action. She also spoke at the recent Let's Go Brandon rally that I attended. Maria led an investigation that she says reveals the involvement of Italy in a 2020 plot to steal the election from Donald Trump, a scheme that she dubs Italygate. According to Maria, the plot to steal the 2020 election was engineered in the Rome embassy by U.S. Foreign Service officers colluding with the Italian defense contractor Leonardo SPA. She says that Barack Obama, the CIA, and former Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi were all a part of the plot too. None of that would surprise us. The plot was this: hack U.S. voting machines, send their data to Italy, manipulate the results, and then use Italian military satellites to beam the fake results back to the U.S. to rig the election. Maria sent those claims to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and she says that she also gave the evidence to General Flynn as well. What did they do with it? Nothing. Why was that? It'd be good to find out, considering.
So this is part of the blocking force that you're talking about. There's people put in positions that block information of taking down this evil system of corruption. So they're inserted. We see this with governors, and I'll say it, blue states. It is what it is. Now, I like what you say is Democrats, Republicans, independents, we all should work together. Political party, throw it away, because they're all corrupt to a great extent. So in these Democrat states, they have allowed election fraud on a massive, and we can't vote them out because of election fraud. Right. So we want to get rid of election fraud. So we're going to vote them out. Well, they keep staying in there. And if, sometimes they play us and you put a Republican in there, which is basically the same system of corruption and fraud. So you go on to talk a little bit about this. So tell us a little bit about these people that are put in place to sabotage everything.
It was really amazing. A billionaire called me out of the blue and he said, Maria, you need to get to the State Department right away and don't go see, and you will not be seeing Mike Pompeo. He's on the dark side. And I was like, well, I kind of suspected it, but hearing it from someone else was kind of interesting, and that he was willing to share that. And it was a gift. It helped me a lot to understand the level this was truly at, which is the highest level in the world. And so I met with 5 people, 5, and they go, "This is all you can trust." And I'm like, 5 people in the entire State Department? Like, are you kidding me? And they wanted to help rescue Arturo Delia. They said, "I'm sorry, this is all we have." And they were scared. They were wishing they were in a skiff, but they said that's bugged too. And this was at a high level. But the people that were embedded there, I noticed a trend of a lot of young people with zero experience put into Trump's first administration. And I kept going, who appointed them? Like, God bless them. They love America, but you're the liaison from the White House to the State Department, and you're 30 years old. And I'm thinking, how much experience do you have to actually have that position? And it was that they kept putting people in places that either they wouldn't know they were part of a corrupt system and that they were helping and aiding and abetting the bad guys. And that's what I started to see, that a lot of the people, it was total sabotage. I have the book, the Fire and Fury book on my desk that Woodward did. Like, he gets in the White House, he gets all these goods from Steve Bannon. Of course he does, right? So I'm seeing this trend and I'm like, wow, this is really amazing. All these people, the kid who worked under Peter Navarro, who came after me and stole Hunter Biden's laptop, according to Jack, was it Dorsey? What was his name? That had Hunter Biden's laptop. He was CIA. He said he handed it to this aide, this little intern, to take into Radcliffe before the January 6th certification so he could stop the certification. And he said that this kid stole the laptop for himself. And for 6 months, he blamed Radcliffe and thought he was a rat. And he goes, then I found out it was the kid who then ended up publishing a book on it and acting like this big hero. Well, he was sabotaging me, releasing the names of some of my witnesses and warning them that coming after them right as I had a police thing happening the next morning. He did it the night before. We got sandbagged left and right.
Yeah, and you talk about how your bank account and all the people that were working with you, all their bank accounts were sabotaged and stopped.
Yes.
Wow, it's crazy.
I had a 0 credit score. I had all my accounts canceled, my businesses, my husband's, Marjorie, who worked for me. It was like crazy land. And of course, being on the cover of every news publication and just being ripped. And then, being canceled. We had a gazillion views very quickly. And then all of a sudden, everything was turned off. Twitter. Yeah. And I went to the guys who got the Twitter files. I'm working with Musk. And I said, hey, can you please work to see what happened to me? Where are the letters that, somebody ordered Twitter to do this? And who really owned it? Did Jack Dorsey actually own it? Who owned Twitter? Just like Facebook. I want Zuckerberg under oath about the ownership of Facebook.
Yeah, CIA. We were all warned in CIA, stay off Facebook because we monitor that. We're like, okay.
Yeah. And DARPA, of course, the infrastructure of the criminal syndicate is to steal all the assets out of government. And that's what they do. And that is the dirty secret. And I'll tell you, the thing that shocked me was the I'll say younger man, adult, who burned himself alive outside of Trump's trial. Do you remember that?
No. There was a few of them that happened during that time frame.
There were 2. There was a military guy at one of them, and then the one right after it was a guy named Max Azzarillo. Well, would it surprise you to learn he was actually working on campaigns and he worked for a Democrat congressman? Like, don't you think that would be news? Max Azzarillo worked for DeFazio. Like, I think that's huge news. He burns himself alive, throwing flyers out, warning people about a system that exists inside the government of stealing elections and doing far worse, and using the universities to cultivate these students, for the nefarious activities that they do. And they go and rob pension funds and do a lot of other nefarious activities. And that system needs to be identified and broken.
All right, wow. See, we can go like one sentence here and then it's like a download from you. It's like, wow. Oh my God, you're amazing.
There are rumors that Trump will make Mike Pompeo his running mate if he decides to run in 2024. Also, how does this Italy-gate narrative mesh with all of the other claims for the 2020 election and how it was stolen, from Venezuela to illegally printed paper ballots? Hopefully we can unpack all of that. Maria Zack with Nations in Action joins us now. Maria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Stu. It's a pleasure to be with you and to let the truth be known, because not many have the courage you have to make that happen, and we're very, very grateful.
You gave your findings, your evidence, to Mike Pompeo and to General Mike Flynn. Is that true?
Actually, I gave it to Mike Flynn for many, many weeks, talking directly to him, talking to Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell. And I can tell you, Mike Flynn called me the day I was flying up when Lynn Wood's plane was tampered with, was the day I was supposed to be flying in. And Mike told me while I was changing planes in.
So that's interesting. When I remember this, because I was following Lynn Wood at the time. I still do occasionally. And in fact, I actually pulled, I'll pull this up here in a second, but I pulled his site up. He's on Telegram, and he's still, I mean, I don't think a week goes by he doesn't call out Mike Flynn. But when you start down that road, this is when things start to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mike Flynn is driving in and doing this. He's part of a group, and this disclosure, I think, needs to happen. So thank you for doing this. This is amazing. So we need to expose all the people that are involved here.
Yes. In the morning to abort that something came up and I needed to not make that connection into Charleston where they were going to pick me up. So
it's safe to say that he didn't ignore your evidence, but that he was concerned for your safety?
No, he actually, quite shockingly, he and Patrick Byrne did everything to prevent us from getting the truth out. And then to explain the Mike Pompeo piece, he was actually asked if he would assist me by a former governor, and he said no. Then I met with State Department personnel who said to me, he cannot be trusted. No, we cannot involve him. Now I know a lot more why that is.
Yes, that's what I want to know. And specifically, individually, was their reasoning the same? Why did General Michael Flynn ignore it? Why did Mike Pompeo ignore it? Why did Patrick Byrne, who's irrelevant and crazy, why did he ignore it?
So it's not that they ignored it. It's far worse than that, far more nefarious, Stu. They actually participated in covering it up and blocking us.
Why?
Wow, that's massive. So let me read.
If you don't mind me jumping in, are you ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll pull up this other one. Go ahead.
So I came out and explained to the world that I am the FBI witness. I had FBI agents that no one knew I was meeting with in 2020 and 2021. And those individuals sure as heck better be scared, just like this guy. They better be scared, because it's all in that file at the FBI, and Kash Patel has it. POTUS has the documents. I've been giving him updates. Flynn is had worked for the guy on the top row, third in, Alexander Nix. And you have to understand, when he worked for him, he failed to report it when he got hired by POTUS, by President Trump in the first administration. And that was what he got caught, that he failed to report. He failed also on Turkey. So he had multiple infractions, violations of the law in what he was doing. And that is significant.
Yeah. So I was in Afghanistan when General Flynn and others came in. And I was like, finally, we're going to start to kick some ass and we're going to get this war over. This is ridiculous. I was working with the CIA at the time. And they came in and they just extended it. It just kept going. I'm like, these guys are corrupt. And then, they had that one guy that was with the Rolling Stone that wrote the book about the generals. And then he had that mysterious crash into a palm tree, and the car blew up and he burned alive. So, these guys are you have to be very careful exposing them. And then, of course, they had the one guy that was from Arizona, had been on the professional football team, that became a Ranger and got shot in the back by his own guys. I think that's probably because he was about to reveal. So these guys are very, very vicious. And
Mike,
and a lot of people, unfortunately, didn't take that warning. Right. But let me get out of here and read what Lynn Wood just had to share. I'm like, wow. So just like you were saying, how does it feel 4 years ago that you were revealing this, and it seems seemingly the same people are still out there causing problems and not arrested, because if you don't arrest a criminal, they're going to do more criminal stuff.
Right. So I think it's been 6 years. It was 2020. It feels like 100 years, I'll tell you. Right? And my patience wears thin, and I don't appreciate cowards. And so, you have children. Many of the people I go to for help, and they're like, oh no, it's scary, or oh, I have children. I'm sorry, you have children. You just screwed them over. You're going to hand them a far worse country if we don't work now. I'm not surprised that Pam Bondi didn't move. Senator Rick Scott told me we're going to get Barack Obama in jail. I supplied, and I'm not government. I can speak and do anything I want. I unmasked a CIA guy moving the pallets of cash for Barack Obama with the Italian prime minister's people, and moving it into Italy to pay them off. And I want to also make sure I mention, I already knew and supplied the information about Serbia, and along with Italy and Venezuela. I knew that in the very beginning and supplied it to Flynn, Sidney, and Patrick. And what did they do? They made sure I was never funded. I have had to pay for lawsuits galore. I have been through the ringer financially. And I don't work for a living. I work to save the country for everybody, because it's not just the country, it's the world that they took. And once they got America down, they've got a free for all. They had Biden 4 years of auto pen. They had the ability to do anything they wanted around the world using USAID and the parallel government. And it is so despicable. And to sit here and think that fellow Americans will keep their mouths shut. That's why I designed the program. That affidavit program, I talked to a former congressman, and he said, Maria, if you could do one thing, what would you do? I said, I would do the employee protection affidavit. Every employee at every pay period in government, including any NGOs, which NGOs shouldn't even be getting government taxpayers' money, and the anyone who's under a contract, a business with a contract with the government, has to sign at every payment. Yes, I did see something suspicious or illegal, or no, I didn't. Under penalty of a felony that's commensurate with the item they may have been covering up. So if they will be treated as if they did the crime, not just if they didn't do the crime, that they covered it up at that level. So the penalty is very harsh, but the protections are huge. And so a lot of these employees that were forced in some of these departments, or they didn't really know, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need, psych polys, and we need people to have the affidavit program immediately. And that is what my request is of the President of the United States.
Excellent. So this is what Lynn said. I think this is today. Yeah, this is today. So this is Bobby Pitton. I think he ran for office, and he was a longtime Flynn supporter. I've seen a lot of these people over the years, criticize me, but it is what it is. So he's turned. He's finally figured it out. And he says, Lynn was right about more than many of us were ready to hear years before we were ready to hear it. I agree with Lynn's assessment that Flynn is not to be trusted and is likely to be put on trial for treason. His loyalty to Obama and communism are his true colors. So Lynn responded to that, and he said, out of the blue, I received an email earlier today from Bobby Pitton, with whom I have not spoken in years. Thereafter, I spoke with Bobby by phone to catch up with him in response to his email. I asked Bobby a number of questions, and he was quick to answer them. A prior Mike Flynn loyalist, it was clear from his answers that he is no longer a Flynn fan. So I made my assessment of Flynn public almost 5 years ago. I have been consistent. I did not tell Bobby that I thought Flynn would be likely to be put on trial for treason. Since conversations can sometimes be misinterpreted, I wanted to clear that up. So he didn't say that he saw Flynn, being tried for treason, but I'll say that. So,
and I will back you
yes.
on that. Absolutely. Yes. And it's so disturbing, the sycophant mentality, because people watch a podcast and think that, suddenly someone would just be magically a fantastic person without knowing anything. You might as well watch a cartoon, because you're getting as much out of it. I marvel at people who have attacked me about Flynn, about Bannon. I've lived it. I've been in the room with them. So you're
calling out Steve Bannon as well. So
absolutely.
Wow.
No, I lived this nightmare, and it's
Trump kicked him out, and Trump has really not dealt with Flynn, although occasionally
he knows, and the intel documents that I supplied them, and the intel documents, and that's part of the problem. Cash has to deal with this, and the system is really deep, really wide. Lots of threats coming out of it, and God bless Lynn Wood, because what he endured and what Sidney Powell did. And I'll give you this other tidbit. I'm going to go ahead and let this out, because it doesn't matter, because the CIA agents have a ton of stuff. And so, or not CIA, sorry, FBI agents that I had, 2 great Americans, I might add.
Thank you, because there are good people in the CIA and FBI, but if the people that are in charge are, crushing them, like happened with you, you're about ready to blow this open. And then the Biden administration came in and shut it all down.
Yeah, Jim Erdman, talk about a hero. They made it untenable for him. So it's still not clean. Ratcliffe needs to man up and remember his age, because he's not going to live forever. And that's the number one thing I find with people. They don't realize they don't get to live for eternity. They get a day with our maker, and it's not going to be pleasant. Most people don't get into heaven. And
the reason why I'm laughing is because you said forever, just like my wife does. That's beautiful. Good job.
Funny. Yeah.
Good. So bigger picture, and you've kind of alluded to a little bit, you haven't gone there yet, but I'll help you,
Sure.
is the deep state. And I've known this for a long time. We saw a possible nuclear attack on Hawaii several years ago. And there was evidence that came out later that they were really going to shoot a missile from a submarine that they had, the deep state, that is. And they were going to blame it on North Korea, because everybody was saying, all the press was like, North Korea is going to nuke us. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I've been to Korea. That's not going to happen. And so then that situation happened. The people of Hawaii went through some serious trauma, because they were told that a nuclear event was about to happen. And, get under their table or whatever, like we used to hear when we were in preschool, in school, as little kids. They traumatized us.
Yeah, our daughter was there when it happened.
Wow.
So yeah, no, this was not cool, not cool. Yeah. And that system exists, and it should terrify everyone, that this shadow government, criminal syndicate, because people are scared. They're the ones actually helping harm the system. They're actually giving them the runway to keep going in the wrong direction, and to be able to threaten the good guys trying to clean up government, which is the majority. So we don't cower to bullies. And now I was really shocked in Nino's talk when he said, I was told that China's got a suitcase nuke, and going to use it. And I was like, oh my gosh. He's been told. Who told him? Just like, Who told everybody Maria Zack was wrong? Maria Zack didn't know. Maria wasn't aware. Maria was well aware. And now I'm like, they already got to Nino. They got to the CEO of Epoch Times. She came out on stage at a St. Petersburg event I was at maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And she said that they had gotten word that of this potential attack by China. And I was like, I already knew this was coming, guys. Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
well,
terrifying.
many of us have been talking about how there's planes have been going up for the last 5 years or so, looking for nuke sniffers all over America, and that's not normal, right? So very, very good people that are monitoring this are putting out constantly. So there is that threat. When I was in the SEALs and the CIA, I was in the SEALs at the very top at SEAL Team 6, and then I was at CIA at the very top, working with people. We all were always looking for nukes because we knew there were nukes out there. So who had them? Some random people had them? No, it was the deep state. And these people that are, helping and protecting the deep state, like Michael Flynn and others, Mike Pompeo, we could just go down the list, but they're helping protect them. And there's a serious threat, like you talked on Nino's show. They have said that if you come out with election fraud, we're going to nuke half the United States.
That is what I'm hearing, and I'm frustrated because we have to keep moving forward. And President Trump needs to understand, you don't cower to them; they're going to kill us anyway. So now's the time. Move hard and fast. Pull the machines. Hand count. We all can count. This is not a hard task. We can get a bunch of third graders and still get the count right. And so I think we're at that point where everyone should be manning up and telling the president it's go time. We're not putting up with this criminal syndicate. And, when you say deep state, I always think it's the people inside. When I hear deep state, I define it as the people who are the government employees who are doing this. But the criminal syndicate are the billion and trillionaires above that are pulling everyone's string. So the criminal syndicate leadership has these puppets of the deep state actors, if that makes sense. That's how I kind of view it, because honestly, I didn't know any of this and I had to learn as I went. So the thing that also troubled me, the infrastructure when, and Mike Flynn didn't know this, but a very dear friend of mine went into the Flynn campaign. So while he was diverting all the money to himself and Sidney Powell, they were moving and building a state by state presidential campaign. And I called my buddy, I said, so Mark's running a presidential campaign for Flynn. What party is Flynn? He goes, Democrat. And I go, so you guys are Republican helping Mike Flynn run for president. I was not prepared for this, but God gives you nothing. You can handle whatever you're given. And so I was a lunatic calling the family going, we got another threat. And so I got calmer over the years. In the beginning, it was a little tough because I've never done anything like this. And I was afraid if something happened to him, it'd be my fault. And to actually make sure he becomes president and Trump doesn't. And the whole Butler shooting, think about this. Has anyone ever said to you, okay, Jill Biden suddenly has an event at the same time, pulls the Secret Service off. Who was she talking to? The sons and daughters of Italy. Hello.
Wow.
Go, Italy. Like,
Wow.
no mistake.
Big reveal. Wow. Unbelievable.
Well, let me take it a step further. I was given tail numbers of an airplane and told that it was actually an active duty military Italian who shot him, who was there. 2 planes were there, and I have those tail numbers, and they're out of Delaware.
Wow. Delaware, of course.
Yeah, you can't track. Yeah, or I couldn't track them. I'm sure someone else could. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm breaking lots of
Italians again. Now, Italians are really some serious culprits. Uh, I I follow these guys that are with this one gentleman, Mr. Slovak, or just is a Russian guy that grew up in Donbass and went to the United States, became a military officer, and went back, and now he's reporting in Russia. There was a girls' school that was shot by drones. Drones crashed into it, killed 18 girls and 3 boys, and the drones were Italian made.
Leonardo's?
Probably. I might have this guy on to ask him these questions, and because the Russians are very smart about all this stuff. Putin said that we're ending the vampires. So we're ending the vampire. So President Trump has talked to him several times, and he's withdrawn aid to Ukraine and all kind of interesting things. He was just at NATO, and he's like, well, I'll back you guys if you give me Greenland.
He's something, and Italy's still trying to push more money to NATO to help Ukraine. And some must ask, who does Giorgia Meloni answer to? Because it's not the people of Italy. And I'm disgraced for my dad his parents came from Italy and immigrated many hundreds of plus years ago. And so it's just terrifying that your bartender can suddenly be made to be a president. She was the AOC of Italy as a Republican. Yeah, and what's funny? A lot of people.
Why do they pick bartenders? Are they because they're like easily manipulable, or what is it?
Well, you get people without morals who love drinking and partying, and you can control them very easy. And that's typical even in state capitals. You get people who have a background that's not godly, and they don't have morals, values, or principles, and you own them instantly. They sell out so cheap. Like, you can give them a trip to California and Disney World, and they'll do whatever voting you want, whatever bill you want dropped. It's amazing what I've seen in my lifetime. It's so despicable that the degradation of values has really taken its toll, and certainly in the younger generation. And you had AOC, but you also had Zelensky had a counterpart, and that was George Santos. So, you get a gay burlesque show guy, and you can make him president in Ukraine, and you can put him in Congress in New York. And so it's the same.
You look at Zelensky, he was like dancing around in leather pants with men with high heels on. Like what? Now he's the president. He's all making all these decisions that millions of. So it is. It's frustrating that we're. At one point, we supported all that, with hundreds of billions of dollars from the Biden administration and weapons.
We didn't support it, Mike. We didn't support it. A corrupt regime.
We people didn't. Yeah.
People of America. No, I will speak for the American people. They would never do what these people have done. It is totally criminal. It is wrong. They need to be prosecuted. They all need to be rounded up. And I'm hoping my case, as Cash moves it out and the ODNI hopefully releases this, and I hope through your video people send this to them and say, we're not doing this anymore. Maria's speaking. You guys need to do the right thing. That push of what's in there will put a lot of people in prison. A lot of people. And I need help getting that done. I need help paying my legal bills. I need to not go to jail now. Italy's trying to now sentence me to 9 months and over $500,000 US, I think it is, and over my dead body. I'm coming for them. Their prime minister has been very bad. And I wouldn't even call her prime minister. She was made. And I will tell you that a member of parliament confessed to me, like instantaneous. The first moment I met him, I saw his dog tags at CPAC and his little tags, and it said Italy, something Italy. And I said, oh, they getting rid of your prime minister? And he's like, what? No, why would you say that? And I said, oh, because clearly she's been involved in the election fraud stuff going on in there. No, he confessed in 10 seconds. I thought it was 30, but he said, I got him in. And he said, no, she knows, and Nordio knows, our head of our DOJ. And President Trump heard that audio and saw the video I did. That was removed from my Rumble video. I don't know how they removed it. They cut the video off, but President Trump and everyone in Mar-a-Lago saw it the night before his election, his reelection. Yeah.
I've had videos disappear on Rumble. I mean, YouTube like shut down 17 of my channels over time. But you know, this one seems to be running. So somehow Peter Tickton and President Trump and all those guys are keeping our First Amendment rights going. Now, Flynn was pardoned. Why? This is evolving organically. So Flynn was pardoned to get him out of the way because he was drawing too much attention to the Trump administration, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
You know, I don't have enough information on it. I don't know who paid what and who promised what. So I try not to get over my skis on something I don't have the exact detail on.
Yeah, those are my thoughts. And so I've heard, I had a gentleman on, he was a former officer in the Army Intel, Scott Bennett, and he basically informed me about Flynn and how bad he was. And there's other people that were in Intel that I had him on my show. So there's a lot of us have been exposing this for a long time, but look how long and how much power he still has. He has protection because I would be surprised because I've had it from his brother. His brother is a little mouth. He's got some. He always gives me nasty words when I talk about his brother. So you know, and he's been on Nino's show. You know, Nino's had some people on his show. I'm not going to say who it is, but they called out General Flynn long ago, and their lives were destroyed. And then Nino had on Flynn's brother, and every other word was a cuss word about the guy, and he's a outstanding guy. So I don't know where we're going to get to the point, when we're going to get to the point where these people start to get arrested and put away. It could be because, like you said, there's a threat. There's a nuclear threat that if they start to reveal, if they start to arrest, then they're going to start to cook off the nukes.
So it's time to grab the microphone. If they want good political consulting and government counseling, I'm the person to call. I'm happy to help advise them, because here's the thing. You grab the microphone and you simply explain, hey, we have this global criminal syndicate, people inside America who have betrayed us. And it's going to be painful, but we're going to eradicate them so your children have a future. And this is the steps we're going to take. We're going to do the audit, the affidavit, and the transparency. We're going to track all the money that they've been stealing of yours. You'll finally be able to end property tax and own your home. I've already built that solution. We have the full affidavit program, and we have full transparency in real time because it's our government. It's not theirs. And that's how they were allowed to steal it, Mike. And we cannot cower on those. And any single politician who is too weak need to do this, and a coward needs to just step out and stop taking the paycheck. And that goes for most of them in Washington. And I know them. They whisper in my ear, yes, they can hack a car. No kidding. You can hack anything these days. So to be scared is not the answer. You actually are committing a crime, and let alone sins against God and the world, but you are actually then as bad as them when you do that. And that is the thing they don't understand. And if they can somehow find in them the power, because I think the biggest thing, Mike, that I've seen, God empowers us. I mean, we have everything we need to move forward. Do you think I'm scared of a Flynn? No, I'm not scared of them. They're on my witness list. My witness list has Bannon, Flynn. I lived this nightmare. I ran the 2024 campaign, a super PAC, and I saw stuff in 2016 that I was doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, 2015, that's when I learned who they were.
Oh, wow.
And so for any American to be so gullible or stupid or paid off and bribed, because that's the only way you're with a Flynn. If you're with Flynn, you are either stupid, a coward, idiotic, mental, or totally bribed. And I am done with people like that. And not many will come and challenge me because they have no evidence. They think that they have to go follow him. And some of them are paid podcasters. And what they did, that's like stolen money. When you take money from people and you say, I'm like this hero trying to save the world, and you're using money actually to destroy the world, that's fraud. And so you don't get to heaven, certainly in fraud. And no, that wasn't a Catholic prayer that Flynn supposedly gave. I've never heard of it in my life. I've been Catholic my whole life. So whatever that woo-woo juju thing was scared me, actually. So he just needs to fess up, take his punishment like a man, if he is one, and let's see where it goes. Because this, and POTUS knows, and a lot of people know. And so as we get to that breaking point, yeah, it might be painful. And by the way, Scott Bennett was great. He interviewed me, and I can tell you, Rich Higgins, I got to work with a lot of people. Many have passed. My business partner and best friend passed, and I had to do the eulogy last week. He actually had the contract for the guy who now owns Dominion for the contracts in Georgia. We actually had supplied all that information to the FBI. And you're like, just hearing this. So there is stuff in that FBI file. And now let's talk about Kash Patel. Kash, your gangster movie, gangster book, all great talk. Talk is cheap. We knew that Susie wasn't moving on this. We knew that Pam Bondi wasn't moving on this. It is time to man up. Your future, like everything, is riding on this. The whole world is watching Kash Patel, and they are disgusted because we're not seeing everything move. And if he's going to cower on Flynn and Bannon because they helped him out, then he has just destroyed his relationship with the entire Republican network, to put it mildly, but humanity in general. And so I don't think he'll land there. I think
same thing with Dan Bongino. You know, he came in there, was going to like reveal all this stuff, and he slunk away, little coward boy. I
don't know what his health was, so I don't want to prejudge, but I shouldn't have more testosterone than these boys. Just saying.
Yes, you're. I mean, you could teach them a thing about cojones. So they need to reach down and check their package out a little bit because they're lacking.
And
but
mad at.
Yeah. So what else would you like to share? I mean, you're on fire, girl. Go.
Well, let's see. What else do you want to know?
Everything.
I will tell you that I was told recently by someone, that is very political inside. The infiltration of the Tea Party was most upsetting to me. The hijacking of groups, the Koch brothers, they own Pompeo, they own CPAC, Matt and Mercedes Schlapp, Matt with his problems that are quite disgusting. For people, the younger guys know not to attend CPAC anymore and not sit close to Matt, but the older people haven't quite caught on to what this really is. And that's sad. These big donors, they think they're doing good in the conservative network. You're not doing good. And the Tea Party was totally a movement to take people like me down. They came after me hard. Now, when Jenny Beth Martin, the head of the Tea Party, ended up getting on the cover of Time magazine, think about that. All the other media hates conservatives, Republicans, but she's on the cover of Time magazine. So they had to promote people to make all the Republicans flock to them, just like they flock to General Flynn. And trust me, I was ROTC, I was Civil Air Patrol, I salute with the best of them. Yep. My mom teased me about wearing the combat boots. I loved my combat boots, I might add. And I wish I had a pair because there are people I would be kicking. And I'm really floored at how gullible people are and the donors are of funding things that fail. One donor called me the other day and she said, I'm just so upset because all these groups I funded and nothing changed. And I said, it's because they don't know the problem, so therefore they don't know the strategy to get us out of it. Almost none of the groups have the background I have in government affairs. If you don't understand government affairs and you don't understand campaigns, you will never figure this out. And you sure as heck would never be able to figure out how to develop the tools to fix it. You know, the fix is very simple, because the audit affidavit and transparency, when you look at a school board, which we have had huge problems with school boards, you're talking about a board of 5 or 7 people. You only need half of them to vote with you to enact these tools, right? So you're talking about 3 or 4 people. I can put 3 or 4 people on their knees. I will not only require you to pass the audit affidavit and transparency, but if you disagree, I'm going to put you on trial in your district. You're going to get a performance appraisal, which obviously you fail because you're not in favor of transparency, for goodness sakes. So you're already proving who you are. And then I'm going to do the performance appraisal trial. We did it in Georgia to the Senate president, and we took him to the woodshed. We had media. We had all the voters. We had volunteers in the Republican Party. He was a Republican member, and we showed them who he really was. He was pushing, and sure enough, he was the heir apparent to be the next lieutenant governor of Georgia, and he lost. The new lieutenant governor comes up. Sorry, I'm Italian, swinging my hand. The new lieutenant governor, he comes up to me, he goes, "Maria, I heard what you did. That was amazing." And I said, "You know what, Bert? I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're dirty, I am coming for you." And he goes, I'm good. You just tell me when there's something bad." And he held to that. He actually, the next year, my team said, he's got a bill sitting from Soros, and I want to come back to Soros in a second, but that it was a Soros bill. And
I was about to ask you, who are these billionaires and that are Soros, obviously? That's good.
When you look up Reuters, I forget what year it was in May, and they had some kind of ceremony, but Alex was scrambling around with Obama. He went to England. He was like trying to figure out how to move the money with Daddy, the transition from Daddy. And it's easier if he's alive and he can just move the money. But the banks started demanding proof of him being alive. So the Secret Service and Intel guys, were calling me. Yeah, he's not alive. And I'm like, let's keep the myth, because you got to keep the boogeyman, right? Way to go. And everyone's falling for it. You hear Soros. No, our problem isn't Soros. Our problem is America. It's the government system that got taken down, and the politicians are allowing it. And I'm tired of them whispering in my ear, begging me for help as a government affairs expert. No, you're on the inside. You have the vote. I don't have the vote. Remember me? You rigged the election so I couldn't win. So I'm sitting here going, no, you have to man up and grab a microphone. And thank God for Tim Burchett. Holy cow, what a great man. If we could get him cloned, I might agree to cloning. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't clone any of them. So we have to have people who are bold and just smart, and not showmen, not, being idiotic in their thought process of what their priorities should be. And, shout out to Barry Loudermilk. He's who I went to first. I've known some of these guys for decades, and he's a man of faith. And he was like, come on, we have to get you in a skiff. We have to get Devin Nunes. We got to get this intel out, because they've known my reputation for decades. I'm very well known in the political circles in many areas. And I called Newt, and Newt was on it, and he was trying to get me on Hannity. So I don't want people to despair that everyone's gone. And some of them were scared. Some of them didn't know what to do, and some of them didn't know how bad it was. Well, I'm here to tell you all, it's very bad. Wake up. You're going to take Thune to the woodshed, oust the secretary there. She needs to go. Stop letting other people control our Senate. We are the people. It's our government. And this push with Thune, I was just in South Dakota for Bob's funeral, and I told everybody, you contact Thune, and it's time to put Thune on trial. And I don't mean my performance appraisal trial. I mean trial. His decision-making is not right. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And something like this, there is something way wrong. And if it's fear, That's not of God. And that's the thing for all of them. It is not of God if you are fearing. So move on, because it's only getting worse, right?
Well, Thune is trying to keep O'Connell alive, Mitch.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I think that's because they want to get it to August 2nd or something. That way, the Democrat governor of Kentucky won't put somebody in that they don't want.
For sure.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they can't.
That's the way they play this game. Yeah.
Well, they don't want to lose a seat, but I would only, pretty much laugh, because it's not Republican or Democrat, it's good versus evil.
Yeah.
We don't have anything else. And so the party is on both sides are so despicable. And I'm just seeing how fast they moved. They rigged elections in their own party leadership. It's who's counting that counts, right? And so you see that system that is so far gone. And I gave Laura Trump the audit affidavit and transparency, and the National Republican Committee should have put into the rules that all the members adopted. And I want the Democrat Party to do it too. So if anyone listening is a part of a party or isn't, go join it and make sure they do that at the local county party level, to the state, to the national. You want to fix America? It's very simple. It's just be focused on a few things. Your school board, your city council, your county commission can all pass the good governance guarantee. The legislators can at the state level, and they will. And I think now people are getting more desperate. I'm definitely hearing the desperation. I think the fear is the media. And honestly, I've been working on a strategy about the media. They are criminals. RICO, they should be all in jail who participated in giving the false narratives, saying there was no election fraud. That tells you exactly just work your way up. Who told who to say that? Who wrote the script? And that person was colluding with someone else. And so that is the process for RICO action. And I hope and pray that President Trump has a team of lawyers on the media side.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, you've got social media and Rumble. I was looking at your channel over there, and X, of course, Nations in Action. That, highly recommend people please donate to you so you can continue your work. Now I think one of the reasons they're not passing the Save America Act is because they want to get it down to the wire. Because once that gets passed, we could see riots and all kind of crazy stuff. That's what I've heard from several people. So I think they're trying to get it down to that wire, election fraud exposure, and on a massive scale, and then the Save America Act, because people will be like, we got to have it now. So what do you think?
Yeah, we can't go any longer. And you have rules before an election, the 90-day rule, the 100-day rule. So of what you can and can't do on software, hardware, and processes. We had people voting multiple times with different fake IDs here in Palm Beach County this last election. So the fact that the SOE put a placard on all the poll watchers that said, I cannot speak, I'm a poll watcher. So this poll watcher witnessed the theft of votes here in Palm Beach County. And there was a police officer there who didn't notice or didn't say anything. She wrote an affidavit. The affidavit goes to the state Republican Party. Why there? I don't know. It should be going to law enforcement. It's a legal tool. And nothing ever happened. She never got a call. And I heard that story over and over again in Fulton County and elsewhere since 2000. And that infrastructure is criminal. And the party is responsible for creating a system to send legal affidavits, not to law enforcement, but to the party to only be covered up. If you want them at the party, replicate them, and they go in both directions simultaneously, because the sooner you give something and say something, you get it fixed. So the police should have been on record for that. And I want to mention too, you talked about the suppression that I've had. I am surprised at the number of people who take my content, put it out, because I'm terrible at social media. I need help. As anyone would look at my stuff and they would see and they'd go, well, Maria's not posting. Maria is trying to save the world. Like, my team is phenomenal. I have people all around the country. I have people in other countries. Callan Georgescu, a godsend, helping and trying to win over Romania to stop this. And he's going to push the good governance guarantee. He said his quote for signing the pledge is, it will stop World War III. If people don't think the good governance guarantee is the way to go and the top priority of every organization on the planet, they have got to be bought off or just stupid and incompetent. And you should never listen to them and never fund them. We are so suppressed, and then people take my content and don't even tweet at me. They don't include me in things about me, so I can't even go in. And then sometimes I see my comments. I spent, I don't know, a whole night on Garrett Ziegler's Telegram. I responded to everybody's question. I must have spent 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
And he not only went and deleted everyone, he told all of them I was evil and bad, and then cut me from that feed. So I was totally removed from the feed. So that was none other than Steve Bannon's placement. It was who was Mr. Operation Warp Speed? Peter Navarro. I went to Peter Navarro early on at the request of others to alert him of this. He not only did nothing, he's Mr. Operation Warp Speed. Where did he come from? Southern California never wore shoes in the White House. His decorum wasn't even of. Think about that. And his boy that he has there is this 21-year-old twit who is sabotaging us every step of the way. And it is painful because the poor FBI agents, they were seeing what was happening and they're like, oh my gosh, Maria, you're just getting it left and right. And I'm like, the people deserve the truth. But the sad thing is, you know, the agents didn't have enough help, and they knew I was right. And I am told, and this is really cool, Jim Erdman, their knowledge of what was taking place in the cover-up, he actually told me that my agents kept working, and God bless them. They knew that I had it nailed and they kept working. So the information's there. I'm forever grateful to them. They're true heroes.
Wow. So I'd never heard that about Peter Navarro. I didn't know that he was the big push for Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah, he was in charge of it.
Hmm.
He was in charge of it, placed by Bannon. Every single person who was placed by Bannon should be investigated. Many of them may not have known. I'm sure the 30-year-old had no clue that she was there as a placeholder of being in there just to look good and try to do her thing. She meant well. But do you think a 30-year-old with no government affairs experience as a liaison from the White House to the State Department
was she a bartender before that?
No, she actually came from a very wealthy family, billionaires. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure he was probably getting donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so why did Peter Navarro spend time in jail? Was that a cover or what?
I think it's a cover. I think it's a total cover.
It sounds, I didn't put that together until you just talked about Operation Warp Speed. Wow.
Yeah.
So did he bamboozle President Trump into going for that, or how did that work out?
I think I can't say what bamboozled President Trump or didn't, because honestly, he's a pretty sharp guy and he plays cards close to the vest, and he's a businessman. He knows how to cut the deal, and so I would never try to think what he thinks or how he thinks. So I just hope and pray he does the right thing by me and the rest of the Americans that are fighting for truth.
Yeah, oh, no doubt about it. There's been other people that Flynn has invited to Mar-a-Lago and sabotaged. And this one woman was telling how she was going to, disclose some stuff, and they shut her down. And this other woman that was part of Flynn's team found out about that, and she just left the Flynn team. But this sabotaging is still going on. I know
Yeah.
Glenn is still
My friend
going to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. My friend died. Flynn should not be allowed to rent out Mar-a-Lago ever for an event. And anyone who goes and
Oh,
helps
that's
him.
how we get there. I got you.
And that's the other thing is the Clay Clark events. A buddy of mine in DC asked me if I would introduce him to some of the Trump family. And so he came over in 2020 to meet me. And I was not real happy about the way he came because I was supposed to meet him somewhere else. And so he said, well, I want you to come to my first event and I'm going to give you VIP tickets, give you a booth and put you on stage and have you speak. So my team drives from Georgia all the way to Oklahoma. I fly out, costing me a fortune, and we're there for whatever it is, the 3 days. Well, when we arrive, not only are there no tickets, no booth, no speaking, he didn't speak to me. And guess who I met there? This was like so telling to me. I've been around way too long. I meet this couple and she's got a book like super thick of all the stuff with tabs, like she's been paying attention to the election fraud. And I said, oh, wow, that's pretty impressive what you have there. I'm Maria Zach. She goes, I know who you are. And I'm like, okay, I've never been greeted like that. Usually one night and nice, I'm in Oklahoma. I don't know anyone. And so I find, she goes, well, we're the Stryker family. My husband's father or grandfather was like Stryker, ultra leftist Democrats that are taking down American principles.
Wow.
And I'm like, they're best friends with Clay Clark. And Clay Clark wouldn't even speak to me. So I saw his mother-in-law and I said, what is going on? And God bless Lee Valentine. She took her table and she shoved everything to the side and gave me half her table. And people were walking up asking for my autograph. They're taking pictures with me. They're like, oh my gosh, you're Maria Zach. Why are you not on stage? And I'm like, Clay Clark won't let me on stage. You have to, they go, we got to stop and we got to tell him. So people were bombarding him. Yeah. But he and Flynn, and then they got to Vigano. When you go to a priest and you start taking down a priest, now I'm really incensed. So they have been working in such nefarious, dirty areas, and I want them fully polygraphed. And so when I get those agents back, I'm giving a full list to Cash and the team, and I'm sure they're probably monitoring this anyway and getting the list as I go. So I'm super excited about that.
We have a lot of viewers right now. We have over 2,000 watching on YouTube and almost 1,000. Let's keep talking so we get 1,000. You'll be my first one to get 1,000 on X. I just started broadcasting X, so yeah, you're going to get good social media exposure today. So and hopefully it just spreads like wildfire. Everybody watching, share this widely, guys. This is very, very important. This is an amazing reveal from you, Maria. Thank you so much.
Oh no, my pleasure. Thank you for having me because this is what I yearn for. It's not my truth. Like I said when we started, everyone deserves this. And I'm sitting here doing everything I can because we have kids and we have a wedding very soon and we're excited, but I'm trying to be excited, but I know where we're at and it's horrifying what I know. And it's scary if you want to think of it that way, but you pray through it. When you have weak moments, you find your group of friends and your prayer warriors and you work through it. And that's where we're really at. And if people don't know how scary it is, then you are clueless and you better wake up soon because everything is off. And if you can't tell from the way the media functions, the way now it's being exposed about MK Ultra, I hope people will go to my website and certainly to my Rumble account. We had James Martinez talking at our first conference in 2021 at Georgia Tech. And talk about a scary time. Antifa came after me, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution has had me in there a gazillion times. When I ran Newt's campaign office in Atlanta, it was incredible how many interviews I gave. And The Atlanta paper knew me very well on all different issues. I could talk telecom. I was doing tort reform bills. That's how I knew Lynn Wood and his expertise. He's one of the sharpest men in Georgia as a lawyer. He's absolutely stellar. So for the people who think Lynn Wood isn't a good man or isn't competent and capable, he was
That was part
sharp.
of the sabotaging that happened with him. He started
Yeah,
to
that's all fake.
he went to his first, I guess one of those conferences where that you were just talking about, and everybody's like, "Oh," he started speaking out. So that's when they shut him down, because he started seeing stuff and he started talking about it. So that's
And
not,
see, for me, the thing that I love is that I've already kind of cleared Lynn over at the FBI because he was early on, because the day I was flying up is the day the plane was sabotaged. So it may have been actually to not just take out Flynn, but me too, or Lynn and me too, because I probably would have been on that plane back to Atlanta. So I don't forget that, and people don't realize, fish food. And one other thing I want to make sure I talk about at Linwood's compound, you talked about people stealing things from him, his guns and stuff. Why in the hell were there MI6 agents as his security team? And that came from a different source. He had MI6 security team. I know why. So the FBI knows why.